Happy 2024 to you. My name is George Brauchler. This is the George Show on 710 KNUS, the first of 4 hours. It's our first show of 2024. Billy and I had the day off yesterday. Billy will be gone after today for the remainder of the week, which is soul-crushing for me. I would normally say no offense to Geronimo and James, who will fill in for Billy, but there's no chance in hell either of them are awake and or listening at this moment. So we'll have them as producers Wednesday through Friday. You won't know any difference except for all the fun parts will be sucked out of the show. But it's a happy new year on my end. Billy, I know we're not together right now, and we won't be until probably next week, but happy new year.
Well, happy new year to you too, sir. It sounds like it's rainy where you are.
It's like rain, only, listen, if you're looking on the YouTubes or the Rumbles, here's what I'm at a friend's house in the backyard in southern Florida, like near Tampa.
Yeah.
I got up this morning. Of course, no one else is up. I get up. I go outside to sit by the pool. And listen, if you could look at this, there's like a water spectacular.
Yeah.
I don't know how to turn the damn thing off.
Oh, my God, that's wonderful.
I got to wait for someone to wake up to be like, hi, can you turn that off?
Yeah. What do we do with this? Oh, that's fantastic.
Buddy, I'm so sorry, man. It's like people don't know this either, but because it's the 6 o'clock hour, which is the unfiltered part of the show. They should know that we had another oh crap moment when I hooked up earlier today that mirrored what happened last week when all of a sudden I had to hop in the car and speed to the I looked at it, I'm like, it's not connecting. Oh my God, it's not connecting.
Reboot everything.
Reboot everything. And somehow rebooting everything works.
I have no idea how that works or why, but okay, fine.
I don't know. Nobody knows. Nobody understands.
It means that
this thing right here.
I feel like you and I have missed an opportunity for a long and illustrious career in IT. If the idea is just reboot, I can do that. I can handle that one. This guy can do that computer stuff.
Listen, when I was the district attorney out in the fighting 18th Judicial District, we had great IT folks, best in the business, but they all go to whatever that condescending school is, where they teach you how to look at every person as if they're a caveman. You know what I mean? Like, I get a lot of this. Instead of just me sitting there going, hey, tell me what I should click on, they throw up their hands and they're like, maybe I could just drive for a little bit? You think you could get out of the chair and let me just, and I'm like, well, can't you talk me through it so I don't need you again? And they're like, there's a lot of steps. Oh, yeah. I'm like, and that's right. I'm a doormat. Sorry.
I think it's the second year course, like the IT 201. Part of that, about partway through, is you have that pause and sigh for that. Okay. I think they teach that because I get that all the time.
When you or if you call into IT anywhere, no matter where it is, it routes you into India.
Yes, it does.
And you end up speaking with Sucresh or someone, and their first thing, and I don't know that they know IT, but they're sitting in front of a screen that has the following steps to fix it. Yeah. I don't know why they couldn't just email that or post it online, but instead you call them and they're like, I'm so sorry for your troubles. Is it on?
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, do you see any lights on? Like, oh my God, you mean it has to have power? Thank you so much, Sucresh.
I'll tell you this. The one that, now there is one exception to the rule. My other life, where I work over with Westwood One, their IT department. Oh my God. Wow. Yeah. Holy crap. It is. Huh? They are the best IT professionals I have ever worked with, and ridiculously quick, and I mean more accommodaing than anybody should really be dealing with someone at my level with computers. It is ridiculous. There's one guy who I almost have on speed dial, Joe Glavin, and unbelievable, such a great guy, such a nice guy, and he's the guy I have to call when something's on fire, and so it's never convenient. And so I'm always bothering him at odd times of the day, weird times of the morning, overnight. He's always wonderful doing it. And he jumps right to it. And he's like, oh, don't worry about it. Here it is. Here. And he just like click, 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 click. And he has a way to get into the back end of my system. And so he just jumps in and just goes, here,
clearly
I'll change it for you.
Himself.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And there was a time I had a problem. And he's like, oh, I'm going to hook you up with this guy in New York. And he'll take care of this other stuff because I've got some things to do. Okay, fine. I thought, that was going to be 2-3 weeks later, maybe a couple of days.
Yeah.
Dude contacts me in 20 minutes and is like, hey, I got some time right now. If you have it, let's get into the system. I'm like, I'm like, oddly enough, I'm free right now. He gets in, he discovers 5 other things. He spends 2.5 hours fixing stupid problems that my system has accumulated over the previous 3 years. And he's like this. He goes, I was looking. He goes, he goes, is anything else? I said, I'm having this weird things in my email. He goes, I got to fix that. I'm like, wait, no, I just have a question. He goes, no. He goes, we'll fix that. And he goes deep into it and fixed a huge problem I was having with my email. I'm like, you are amazing. And he goes, I'm just, this is what we do. He goes, this is what they've told us to do, is to fix your problems. Whatever it is.
They fixed all the problems and they have nothing but free time.
Oh, it's amazing.
So they're just kind of waiting for you to call up and be like, hi.
It is. It is the only time. There are some times I have been ignored, but I have found, strangely enough, if I CC my regional manager, things happen very quickly. I know.
That's interesting.
I'm just saying.
I didn't know that worked
if
anymore.
If it's not there, if the CC's not there, not so much. The CC's there, oh yeah, that's an emergency. Yeah, I've learned that trick too, when I get ignored every once in a while. But most of the time, they are right on it. It is amazing.
Well, mercifully, everything, when we just restarted all the stuff, we hooked up again, and it was just such a relief, because I didn't have the option of just driving into the studio, that this was going to end up becoming something very, very ugly.
Yeah, and I really didn't want to have to wake Kelly up again.
It wouldn't have been just Kelly. It would have been Kelly and John Caldera.
And Caldera. And it would have been a list of people. And I've done that before, where it's like a fire drill. Let's see who we can get on the air in the next 15 minutes.
If we could get through as much of 2024 without, let's see what that is. You know how they have those big signs when you leave a military base it says it has been X number of days since our last DUI.
Yes.
We should have something like that. It's been X number of days since the morning show had to call Kelly. Something like that.
We had a sign back, when we're in the office over at Westwood One. The area, unsurprisingly, where I worked was referred to as the clubhouse, because that is how we behaved. We behaved as if we were goofing around in a clubhouse. We had all sorts of, we had games there. We had all sorts of rules. We had, there was a rule that if you showed up to work and you were wearing an Avalanche jersey, it was legal to check you into the boards the entire day.
So
I mean, we had a lot of fun with this. One of the signs that we had was
Terry Tate.
Oh, it is. It says it has been this many days till someone has done something inappropriate, and it was always at 0. Because that was the rule. We actually
couldn't let it go to 1.
Yeah, no, it never would go to 1. In fact, we were such a bunch of goofs. We had gone and got a stack of a whole bunch of fake money that they use in movie props, and a fake wrestling championship belt. And every week we would name the champion of the week, someone that had done something, and then you were allowed to take your picture, and then we had your picture for the champion of the week.
That sounds like old school radio, right?
Oh yeah, it absolutely was. It was fun, but the important thing was you had to get your pose down right. You got to flash the money, you got to have the belt, you got to stare into the camera.
There it is.
You got to have some attitude here. So and you would have
This is the old WKRP days.
Yes, exactly. And then you had to pick your own wrestler name. It was, again. We were goofs. We were a bunch of
I'm almost certain there's a website that does that, where you type in your name and it gives you your wrestler name.
Oh yeah, but we did it ourselves. We had one where we had to pick our own rapper names. That was great. Yeah. Yeah, we all did.
We don't do that here.
No, we don't.
Billy, why haven't you imported these things over to 710?
Because there were a lot of conversations with HR. Let's just say that.
Well.
We had a number, and it was never guys, you got to stop doing this. They were like, can you explain to me why? Like, well, we're okay. And they're like, okay, fine.
And maybe the Salem folks who, whose big hitters are Charlie Kirk and Dennis Prager and Seb Gorka.
Yes.
Maybe they're not as amenable to that kind of an environment.
Probably not. Although
I don't know.
The one mistake that they did make there over at Westwood One was the suggestion or question box.
Oh yeah, those are always a mistake.
That was a huge mistake, especially back where we were. Each one of us made it our mission to put in one ridiculous question or suggestion a day.
And did it ever get responded to? Did the HR people?
Yeah, in the meeting there was a mention as to please stop doing that. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it was great.
Before I get into your New Year's resolutions, man, or anything that has lasted beyond one day, temperature today going to be nice, 50 degrees, big ball of sun in the sky. But it looks like on the thing you sent me, Billy, it offensively suggests that on Thursday we're going to have light snow. Then it teases, that's at 37 degrees of a high. Then it teases us for about 3 days and then crushes us, well, maybe 2 days with some more snow on Sunday and Monday.
Yeah, that should be the time in which most of the kiddies are going back to school. that Sunday, Monday. That should be the 8th. Should be the first
Tuesday
day back.
for us. It's a week from Tuesday.
Oh, good. So it's going to be a lot of fun that Monday and Tuesday.
Yeah, what can you do, man? I don't know. Listen, since last we were on together, lots happened in the sports world. I have to say, without any sort of New Year's resolution attached to it, just circumstantial, just because of things going on, I followed football entirely on my phone.
Wow.
Like, I didn't watch a single snap of the Broncos, snap. I mean, it's unheard of.
Yeah.
I felt itchy the whole time, like I've done something wrong here. And nonetheless, get through last night. I ended up, because you're over with friends and we're playing games and stuff like that. And it was a long story, buddy, but a marathon rounds of a game called Sequence, which is a fun game. It was a lot of fun. It really was.
I don't know that one, and I told you I do a lot of games. Describe to me Sequence? What is it? What's the premise?
So there's a board. I'm sorry. There's a board.
Yeah.
And it has a whole bunch of cards on it, all like playing cards.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like 52. Except the jokers are wild, so they're not on it, and they're in some sort of a weird arrangement that are on this board, and based on dealing and shuffling and the this and the that, and you have to find a way to put down these chips, use cards in your hand, and the ones that you draw in 5 in a row, either up and down, left or right, diagonal or whatever, and you have to do it twice. And so we had these 2 teams of 2. Some grandparents were involved, and anyway, of course. Yeah, it was good. It's good. Of course, I was dominant. I don't know what else to say. I don't. It doesn't matter to me that the other side involved Grandpa. I mean, listen, you signed up to play.
Yeah, exactly.
It's go time.
Yep,
it's happening. Yep. You know. So we did that, but I kept checking my phone, and I'm looking at these games from yesterday. And I'm like, my God, I'm missing 2 of the greatest college football games, not just of the year, but perhaps of years. Like, I can't believe what's happening to me. But at the same time, I'm having a great time with the grandparents, having a fun time. But I'm looking at the phone thinking, how have I put myself in this position?
Yeah.
You know, but nonetheless, I don't know if you got a chance to watch any of those.
I didn't watch any of the college stuff because, again, I don't watch as much college games. It's just not, again, I'm a weird guy. I watch soccer. So I watch the pro football, but I don't do a lot of college. We were watching, we played Clue last night. So we got an updated version because our version was from the 70s. So for Christmas, we got an updated version of Clue. And my sons and I were going through.
Who did it, by the way?
What was this one? It was Colonel Mustard. And I forgot what there were several of them that happened last night. Miss Scarlet was the killer one, and I forgot the third one.
She's a whore.
Yeah,
let's be honest.
She's absolutely is. Yeah,
and Colonel Mustard, well, that guy's always up to kill.
Always. I mean, he's just at a drop of a hat. He just wants to. And so he
just wants to do it.
Caught up on the Lego Masters holiday special, which was a nice 4 hours. And so spent that yesterday afternoon watching that with the kids.
Is Will Arnett still doing the hosting?
Yeah, he is. He is. And this is a weird one because, Lego Masters is fun. It's in the 4th season. But the holiday one, they just shoot it over 2 days. It's just, it's a filler. The nice part is each show is 2 hours. So they have 2 different challenges. And they bring in celebrities. And they brought in Kelly Osbourne, Nene Leakes. So, and they build with really, really good builders. The funniest one, Marshawn Lynch was one of the celebrities.
No.
And I get it why he was such a wonderful teammate because he was just a ball of silliness and joy the entire time. I can see why the lineman for him would have run through a brick wall just to block for him because he is so hilarious and he's so funny and he's supportive, but he's just such a great guy. And you're watching him and they put him and I always wondered, with these celebrity type of things, especially with the skill competition like a Lego, when you're building the things, they have to pick who that matchup is going to be. Who's your expert going to be? And they picked this guy from a couple of years ago who's from Canada, huge hockey fan, but he was so good on the show, Lego hired him and moved him to Denmark. So he works at Lego headquarters. So dude flew from Denmark here and was Marshawn Lynch's partner. And he's kind of a big dude too, burly guy, big beard, huge hockey fan, huge football guy. The 2 of them together, their personalities were adorable. And watching Marshawn wander around and kind of taunt and play with some of the other, like one of the other teams left their table for a while. He went over there and drew, nope, over their design. And they come back, who do this? And he's like, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, there were just some really silly things that happened that he was just a bundle of energy. It was really, really enjoyable, for that. And it was a nice little 4 hours. So we watched that. Yeah. And of course, skipping the commercials, best thing in the world. So did that. And then we played some games. So yeah, I missed the college football. Watched the Broncos though. And that was interesting. The whole Stidham experiment. That was enlightening. Not perfect, but enlightening.
I got a chance to listen to Marshawn on that Smartless podcast that we're giving free plugs to, because Will Arnett is part of it. Sean Hayes, Will Arnett, and Bateman, Jason Bateman. And he was equally entertaining on that thing as you described him. And, when he talks about how he got into football and originally it wasn't a natural fit and what he was doing and all this, he sounds like a good dude.
Oh,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? Like,
he
sounds like he was fun.
Just a really nice guy. And like, there's one point in which he's working with his expert and he's asking him, he goes, this is fascinating. And he's talking about how well, and the expert kind of explains to him, he said, how you're in the backfield and you can look at the defense and how the defense is going to flow and where the blocks are going to fall and you can see it. You don't know exactly how it's going to play out, but you can see it in your mind. He's like, yeah. The expert goes, that's what I see here on the table. I can see what we're building in my mind. I don't know all the details, but that's what I see. And Marshawn goes, man, that's crazy. And so he goes, I get it. And he kind of comes into the idea. It was really, really neat. It was a really enjoyable moment. Yeah.
You can tell Marshawn's making a run at that post-football life in a media setting because he's popping up here, there, and everywhere. And I appreciate that. I respect that and a willingness to want to do that. In terms of the Clue game, love the Clue game.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's that. So I had a chance to do an escape room.
Oh, nice.
A few days ago.
That can be. That's interesting. Depending on who you are, who your team is, that can either make friendships or break friendships. That's interesting.
Yeah. It was good. Like it was good in that you're like, here you have an hour. It was very elaborate.
Yeah.
It was premised on sort of the chapter after Murder on the Orient Express.
Oh, cool.
And it was sort of there was a nice sort of this place, and I think it was called Escapology or something.
Yeah.
Really, I've only done a couple. This was the best, far and away. The problem was, without knowing how far this thing progresses, you just have a misperception of how you're doing. So the early stuff, I'm like, we're killing it.
Oh yeah,
right. We're going to end this thing early. Like we have 60 minutes, and at 30 minutes, we're getting ready to solve this thing. And then you solve it only to find that you've popped open a second door to another room. And you're like,
that's
what
great.
Okay. And you're like, okay, it's all right because we still have another 30 minutes halfway. Not a big deal. Well, with just about 9 minutes left, another door we pop open by solving. And I'm like, uh-oh. And now this last room is smaller, but more complicated than the first. And it's like you're running back and forth between the rooms to try to gather. And I'm like, if I had, I would not have been as lackadaisical in the first room, right? Like I would have acted with a MacGyver-like urgency in trying to figure out how to make a rubber band, a peanut shell, and some glue turn into a bomb or something like that. And so we end up, and the nice guys that run this thing, this nice kind of dorky-ish dude, but super nice, comes out with his iPad. He's like, oh, you guys were so close. Let me show you how close you were.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at it. He's like, and then you would have done this, and then you'd have found these things, and you put that there, and that would have led you over to these things. And then you would have, I'm like, dude, that ain't close.
That's not close.
But
he's trying to be encouraging.
You're trying to make us feel good, but we got crushed. I mean, this was their hardest game, like less than, I think it was something like it's a 69% now 70% failure rate.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Wow.
Like it is. And so that's why we took it on. Yeah. And afterwards, he's like, no, you'd be surprised how much you can get done in the last 2 minutes. And I'm like, based on the first 58, you're right. I'd be surprised. There was no chance we were going to wizard our way out of this thing. But it was incredibly elaborate, really well thought out. It didn't require a great deal of tech, but the room was done up well. You felt like you were on a train. I mean, it was just, I don't know. They put a lot of effort into it. It was super cool.
I do find that the atmosphere does do a lot in those escape rooms.
Oh, it does.
Yeah,
really absolutely. And it just made me feel like I wanted to go back to Clue, because then in Clue, you know that whoever the murderer is on the board.
Yeah, exactly.
You just have to, the weapon is there.
Yeah.
And you just have to make sure the people you're playing with aren't cheating.
Yeah, unsurprisingly, the escape rooms, I'm not the favoritist person in the group. It's, again, I know it seems really off-brand. I know it's really surprising to a lot of people out there. Not the favoriteest person, because the way that the weirdness inside my head works, it goes way too fast, and I don't start exploring what could be the answer. My brain starts exploring all of the answers, and so it runs in many directions at the same time, and the thoughts don't always connect, and I can be a very, very frustrating teammate. I can see things that connect that sometimes don't. But yeah, I'm an incredibly, because there are times in which we're dealing on step 3. No, excuse me. And I'm on step 7 inside my head.
Whatever that was, Gesundheit.
Oh, thank you. But I'm on step 7, like inside my head. I'm working beyond where we are at that point, and I can't stop it. And so, but I'm not saying that I'm right, that I'm saying, hey, I found this. I start exploring these threads going, oh, if it goes this way, okay, that's not right. Okay, we got to go back this way. Okay, that's not right. Got to go back this way. And so it's noisy. Those type of things, I enjoy them, but it's very noisy inside my head. And I'm not always the best teammate. If you give me, much like a puppy dog, if you give me a single task to focus on, much better for me. Yeah, if you say that if we portion it out and we do it like a team, then I can really help the team. You let me wander around, and I'm more of a detriment many times. And again, not surprisingly.
It's fine. That's so
hard.
I
know.
But you'd be fun. You'd be fun there. Did they throw a little liquor in you, or did they just keep you as
It depends. It depends on which one. But either way, it's a lot of fun. I'm just louder with liquor. That's the only thing, which is not a good thing. Not a positive. Not in a closed room.
Pretty sure there's a T-shirt there.
Yes, exactly.
Louder with liquor.
Yes, that's exactly it.
Anything? Listen, you're getting the next 3 days to, I presume, to kind of decompress, because you never take time off. You've built up 8 billion hours of use or lose.
I have so much
Any
time.
big plans or just sleepy time?
Not too many big plans. I do need to make a run up to the mountains. That might happen. It was going to happen Thursday, but now it's snowy. So I don't know if it's going to be Thursday or Friday. I've got to make a run up there. It'll just be a day trip. That's basically the only thing. I've got to get one of the cars worked on. I've got some stuff around the house I've got to do. The nice part is we unmade Christmas yesterday, so that was kind of cool.
You did?
Yeah. Yeah, we did it.
Great question.
Yeah.
What time are you supposed to do that?
Well, technically, you're not supposed to take it down until after the end of the stock show. But chances are, since I live out in there where the radio station is, out in the Aurora side of town, not a lot of stock show visitors. So it's not as if they're around our area.
Internally, though, someone told me the other day, on January 6th is the feast of the, which I should know, and I don't know. But they're like, you wait for that, and I'm like, I didn't know there. I'm 50 something days old here, and I'm now realizing I've never paid attention to when stuff goes up or goes down. No. I usually wait for that President's Day HOA letter that says it's time to get those lights down. And I'm like, are they still up?
Yeah, are they?
Oh
really?
My God.
Yeah. I do have the yard decorations. They got to come down today, so I got to work on those because it was a little frozen yesterday. For me, there are times in which I thought, oh, when am I supposed to, when am I not to? And then it was, I want to say about a decade or so ago that this little light bulb went on over my head, and it went, yeah, you're a grown-ass man. You can decide this when you want. No, so you can just decide to do it when you want to. So yesterday we had enough of the peoples around, and they weren't off with their friends. And so that's what it takes, because we have a lot of Christmas stuff. We have the fake tree that goes into the box. Then we have, let me think, 1, 2, 3, 8. We have 8 of those, plastic tubs that are full of Christmas stuff. Buddy. 8 of them that have to come out of this.
I hate doing it because, again, I look forward to this holiday so much that once it's in the rear view mirror, I'm like, oh no, that means there's really, what are the good holidays between now and, well, there's Easter. Okay, so there's Easter.
I mean, I think kind of, but our Lord and Savior probably shuns on you, thinking that's a good one.
Yeah. Well, I didn't want to say anything other than that out loud, because I know he's keeping tally. And I'm in the hole. I have a deficit that I don't think I can climb out of.
Exactly.
But what do you got? You've got MLK. You've got President's Day.
Nothing.
Spring break isn't a holiday, but it's a thing.
Yeah. Then you got Easter, and that's it. You got nothing. This is the rough part. This is the really rough part of the year, is where we turn around. We've had so many little days going through the last 2 to 2.5 months of the year that this opening run is real difficult. Thank goodness we've got the Martin Luther King Day early in January. Well, halfway through. That helps, but
what was it? 2 weeks from yesterday.
Yeah, it's the 15th.
2 weeks from
15th this year. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's when Big T heads back to CSU, and man, of course, will be off to GW.
That's the only reason I know that it's the 15th. It's not because I just keep track of Martin Luther King every year. It's because I know it's the 15th because that's the day we have to get Spencer back to school too. Yeah.
I'm dreading that too.
It's awful. Yeah.
I don't know, man. I can foresee the future here, and it's bleak. And the idea that all of the kids, like right now, still got 2 boys that are there all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And Jeff is a 16-year-old with a car who's not like I was with a 16. When I was 16. When I was 16, if I had access to the car, see ya.
Yeah, see ya.
But and Amanda was that way. Trey, not so much. Jeff, really not at all. Like but I can foresee 5 years down the road, they're all off either in college or doing whatever they're doing with their lives. And now this period of time seems shorter and less frequent. And now it's like, oh my God, this is all I get. This is all I get of my kids.
It's difficult, but they're going to be those little tiny bright spots. And like going over New Year's Eve, there are those one bright spots where my wife and I talk to each other. And this is the strange part, is that with the 3 older ones who all have friends that are doing things for New Year's Eve, they chose to stay at home with us and play games and eat food and do things like that. That was interesting. They, Spencer and Katie both were like, they were both like, nah, my friends are doing this, but no, I'd rather stay home with you guys because we're going to do this and this. And that was a really neat, that was kind of a neat accomplishment because hopefully later on down the year. No, I don't either. I have no idea, but they did. They wanted to stay home and play games with us. So it was kind of cool.
You've done a great job. I have clearly alienated them, but listen, there are multiple texts from listeners.
Uh-oh, what I do now?
Listening, no, not you. Because of the water in the background, all referencing needing to pee.
Yes, exactly. Just your morning reminder.
I really enjoy cascading water. Very soothing.
I think it's great.
I do feel like I need to urinate. Alexa, I wonder how many listeners have to
I think it's wonderful. And I think the fact that what is going to happen today is that people are going to turn on the radio for a second and go, what is there, a water leak around here? It is going to confuse people. I know.
Listen,
I think it's great.
As soon one of these breaks, I'm going to find someone who's awake and knows where that button is, and all of a sudden we're going to come back and people are going to be like, "Wow,
look
it sounds so different."
Yeah, I think this is kind of like, but they have that, like that you walk into the doctor's office, there's that, they've always got the waterfalls, the massage parlor things, waterfalls. You do that to soothe you. That's what this is. Yeah,
this is the George Spa show, right?
Exactly.
Here.
That's exactly it.
Someone else said they take the decorations down on the 1st because we're off and have time. One great reason to do it, but
super smart.
I can't do it. Like I want to keep it up all the time just because but I know it has to go down. And now that I hear you say it, and I have these other folks telling me about the feast of the thing and the and then the stock show. Are you going, by the way? Do we get to do a live show from the stock show? And if not, why not?
No, they don't. I don't know.
Why can't we do that?
We probably should. It's fun. I don't know. I'll probably try to get out there at least once or so. It's become more difficult to drive. That's one thing the kids don't really like doing as much. But I've got some friends that grew up on farms, and so I do enjoy going around. I love going through like even some of the new farm equipment, things like that. Like, look, it's enjoyable. We're going to try to get out there. But again, it's the other side of the planet, and driving out there and getting across town, and
it's hard.
It's always fun. Yeah.
But it's super cool. The kids actually loved it when we were. I remember having the little cowboy hats and the pink hat for Amanda and all the other stuff. And then over the last few years, we've just kind of fallen off. But I want to get back out there. It's just so uniquely Colorado.
It is.
And I want to support that. We're going to that new National Western Complex, which sounds awesome.
And I think that's the important part.
I want it to keep it going.
That's the important part, is the support. And that is the bottom line, is why we try to get out there, is because you want to make sure they get those gate receipts. And you want to make sure they show that people still here show up. Because if we stop showing up, they'll move it somewhere else. So just to preserve it, I can plop down the money and get through the door just to preserve the fact that it stays here.
I wonder if they're going to do a good job of keeping the homeless camps away from that during the time that all these people are pouring in, because it's worth like jillions of bucks
for me
in the economy.
Well, see, I think this is, again, a missed opportunity. What I would do is we could have Colorado's version of Running of the Bulls. I think the homeless that are around there, we put up some railings and stuff, and then we just let the cattle go. And whoever gets to the end, free food at I don't know, maybe Denny's for a year or something like that.
Now Christmas is in the rearview mirror. We have completely abandoned any sense of giving. It's the season of giving. It's the season of amusement.
Yes. And this is the problem why I'm no fun in the escape room. This is why I'm no fun. This is why I do not help, because that's the ideas that I come up with. They're of no help to anybody. Yeah.
Listen, we've got a couple more things here. Our let's see, gents. Speaking of things IT related, someone's late to the game here, but I'm going to read it. I may have worked for a fruit named smartphone in 2011, providing tier 1 tech support. Tier 1 sounds like DEFCON 5. If I could have traded even half of my year there for jail time, I would have taken that deal.
I bet the questions are just like, oh my God.
Here's one. George, the tree and wreath come down in time for the Boy Scouts to take them. Oh, so you clearly have the real ones. Good for you.
Oh, that's cool.
My only rule regarding Christmas decorations. Well, that's real. That's something right there.
That is awesome.
Oh, and now Jones told us about a movie she saw with her husband, Boys in the Boat. That's that George Clooney thing.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that. That's been like chasing me everywhere in the social medias. Yeah, they
must have heard you talk about it on your Alexa or in your phone or something like that.
I think so. Oh, and on the side note, Blue Eye Samurai, superb recommendation.
You've been watching it?
Yeah, that is superb.
It's something, isn't it?
That is next level. That is, and there's so much to enjoy about it because of it is a classic anime story, but it's told through the eyes of American writers, and so it's not the same animation style, and they present it differently. But is that a good story?
Interesting twist, along the way and stuff like that.
Good. Yeah, really, really, really good. That is a superb recommendation.
Which episode are you on?
Oh gosh, 5 or 6? 5?
Oh yeah, 5? You don't have much left.
Yeah, no, we don't.
10 or something like that, maybe. But
so that's about where we are. Yeah. Oh, it's good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I'd wish that they could make that into something live actiony, but it feels like it would take something away from it.
I think so too. And I think because I've seen a couple of that, and the one example I have is Cowboy Bebop, which is a wonderful Japanese, wonderful anime. They tried to do it live action, and it was neat. And they did it for live action. They did a really good job, but it's not the same. It just isn't the same because of what you can do with the animation. It's a different vehicle. It's a different form of entertainment. So sometimes trying to make the cartoon into real life doesn't necessarily work because cartoons allow you to do things you can't shoot in real life, and you kind of have to. Yeah.
What are you talking about?
It's weird that way. I don't know how that happens. I know it's stupid. It's silly.
Let's do this, man. Let's cut away for a break. I know this will be our first and only chance this week the first week of 2024 to do the You Choose the News and the Thorpe Report, because as you know, G and James don't do that. I don't know why you can't train them to do it. I don't think it would be as good, but I'd rather have B-level that than me have to come up with something to say between 6:30 and 7. You always make it so magical. So if you could do that by the end of today,
I will try
it. But listen,
the problem is if I try to get James and G to do those things, it's almost like sharing my mental illness. And that's a problem.
Well,
I feel like I'm cursing someone else. So that's really the issue here. Is I feel like this should die here with me. That maybe we shouldn't be doing that. Oh yeah, but back to you, sir. Sorry.
Yeah. Let me do this before we cut out of here. Look, the new year is here. As you know, I never got a chance to ask you about the resolutions. Mine is a lot of it is sleep and health related. Good grief! And if you're like me and you're thinking about how to improve your health, one of the things you might be asking yourself is, why am I feeling so sluggish, low energy? Sleep patterns are off. I read through some of this and I was like, is this me? And then I don't think it's me, but maybe it is me. And if it is me, or if it's you, try the Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic. They may be able to actually help you with that resolution. If you go to RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com, all one word, RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com, they have something called a low T quiz on their website. Simple 10-question quiz, yes or no's. It takes about 2 minutes. Based on that answer, you may want to schedule an appointment with these fantastic folks out there, licensed medical providers. The first appointment, it's only $99 to see what they can do. It's a medical consult. They do a T and I think that's testosterone and PSA test. If you sign up for the testosterone treatment the day of your appointment, then you don't have to pay anything. Then it's just free. And this is the kind of stuff that gets you sleeping better, feeling stronger. Your workouts turn out to be better. Hell, you may even be more motivated to just work out. Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic is the way to go. So you can check them out at RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com, but I'd give them a call, 720-440-7900, 720-440-7900. Hey, when we come back, the good stuff, the Thorpe Report, and You Choose the News. It's George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Got to get right to it. It's the only time this week we're going to get to enjoy it. It's the Thorpe Report with William.
Hey, good morning. And also, this is fantastic. We have a sponsor. I know. Seems to be some sort of mistake. I don't know why. But thank you, Travis. The Thorpe Report brought to you by Layers Fireplace and Patio. It's fantastic. That's amazing.
Oh, buddy, that is magical. Congratulations.
Look at that.
Congratulations.
All righty, sir. Well, it's going to be about 50 degrees and sunny today. Overnight lows right around 25. Cloudy and sunny tomorrow. I have got a bug in my throat, so I'm going to be coughing a lot here.
If people can't watch you on the YouTubes, they can't tell that you're using the cough
I know.
button. Because I can
again.
see you going through. You're producing something like a snake would.
Oh, it is. It's phlegm in the back of my throat. So we're going to drop to 37 degrees, light snow on Thursday, 40 degrees on Friday, and then snow's going to move back into our area over the weekend.
Boom.
Yep. One person, unfortunately, died and one was taken to the hospital after a vehicle crashed into the water early Monday in the Thornton area. We responded to the crash right around 2:20 in the afternoon, 104th Avenue, McKay Road. 2 people inside the vehicle. One of the occupants died at the scene, other taken to the hospital. Injured person, condition unknown. Not sure what actually premeditated the crash or what happened. So they're talking next of kin. Also, Denver Police Department is investigating a fatal crash that happened early Monday morning. Crash happened around 5 a.m., East 53rd Avenue and North Chambers Road. 2 vehicles involved in the crash, a blue Dodge Caravan and a gray Acura SUV. Dodge northbound on Chambers collided with the Acura. Passenger inside the Acura died at the scene. The people inside the Dodge abandoned the minivan at the scene and ran away.
Oh, my.
Yeah, so they're trying to figure out who was in the minivan and how many people. A woman who was wanted on murder charges in connection with the deaths of her 2 children in Colorado Springs was taken into custody in England. She was arrested in the United Kingdom. I don't know how she made it all the way there. I thought that when they were looking for her, that maybe they wouldn't allow her to leave the country, but okay.
Yeah, that seemed like a smart step to take.
Yeah, you'd think. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how these things work, but maybe. No. Also, one person was killed, another was injured in a shooting early morning hours New Year's Day. Happened at the 2500 block of South Zenobia Street in Denver. Yeah, right around 2:30 in the morning. 2 people who had been shot. 1 person later died. They're working on suspect information. Commerce City Police Department says person they were looking for in connection with the fatal shooting has turned himself in. It was a 19-year-old man, person of interest in a shooting that happened Monday morning near East 78th Avenue and Dahlia Street in Commerce City. Also, gun rights activists say they filed a federal lawsuit challenging Colorado's new ban on unserialized guns, those ghost guns. It is Rocky Mountain gun owners. They say that it is overreach and they should be able to print their own guns at home. And as many as 19 buses.
What?
Yeah, that they think that you should be able to print your own guns. Why not? That's what Rocky Mountain gun owners thinks. Is what could go wrong?
Is that what they said in their thing?
Well, that may be the way that I,
RMGO is also, they're huge proponents of rearming convicted felons, regardless of what they were convicted of. As long as they're not in prison anymore, they're like, hey, they should get their guns back.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm as Second Amendment a guy as you're going to find, but I guess I'm going to stop it. Oh, you were convicted of aggravated robbery with a handgun? I guess you shouldn't have them anymore.
Yeah, and they, convicted of domestic violence and some other stuff? Maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe. There's some indicators there. That
you menaced somebody with a gun. Maybe you don't get to have a gun anymore.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's an interesting conversation because you had the guy that was taking his case all the way to the Supreme Court that said he shouldn't be deprived his Second Amendment rights, despite the fact that he has fired a gun at other people and even in a fast food restaurant because he was upset with his order.
Why would you give a gun back to that guy? Like,
and he says he should have to have it.
Oh, well, he's got a right to it. It's like, nope.
I know. Oh, well. Also, 19 buses and vans dropped off migrants in Denver's Central Park neighborhood Friday. The buses and vans arrived between 8 a.m. and 1 p.m., left migrants in the parking lots of Home Depot, Walmart, and Sam's Club. That's one of the things that I don't think is being covered in this entire migrant dropping off thing, is I really believe, and again, I don't know this for certain, but I believe that the narrative that is being told to some of these migrants and get them on the buses and then bringing them to the cities and dropping them off, my guess is the narrative is not accurate. My guess is, I'm not saying that it's necessarily intentionally duplicitous, but I'm guessing they're telling them, hey, you're going to come here and there's going to be people that will help you in jobs, and they dump them in a parking lot. I just, when people are left in a parking lot and there's no NGOs there to receive them, there's something that's not connected here.
If I'm the business, why am I not suing Denver or whoever it is that's telling them to drop them off there? Like, hang on, this parking lot doesn't belong to you.
Yeah.
Go take them to Capitol, the Capitol. Go take them to Civic Center Park, but don't drop them off in my damn parking lot.
And why would we choose a Home Depot parking lot? Again, it's just, there's something here there's a connection, that there's more information here. The story is more interesting than what we're being led to believe. And I do believe people using this. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Hundreds of thousands of contacts in one day over the last few days. I mean, buddy, there's something we got to stop this. Anyway, listen, the other thing we have to stop
we got to stop this. Yeah,
because we got to cut away for a break. You're going to do some magic. We're going to come back. And we're going to hit the Thorpe report, or I'm sorry, the You Choose the News for the only time this week. So stick around. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Got to get right to it right now. It's the Thorpe Report. I'm sorry. Good God, I've done that 3 times today. It's You Choose the News, 2024 edition.
I know, we get like a sponsor, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, Thorpe Report.
I know,
I
I'm just like, I want to highlight it.
Well, it is time for everybody to sit back and relax as we play your favorite fake radio news game show. Yes, it is time for You Choose the News, where we have scoured the interwebs this morning for mere moments to find really stupid stories about us humans, giving them even dumber headlines to play this fake radio news game. Alrighty, sir, strap in. Here are your choices this morning. Headline number 1, sportsmanship is for losers. Headline number 2, beauty product works too well. Headline number 3, obviously more of an Old Testament fan. And headline number 4, new year, new neighbors. Your choices yet again, sportsmanship is for losers.
New year, new neighbors.
New year's, new neighbors. Now, we've heard that maybe there are some aliens, extraterrestrials running around in this universe. Is this the year that we get some new neighbors? They're going to show up and say hi to do. Now, actually, not fingers crossed, because according to the people in charge, it would be one of the worst things that could befall our planet. Yes, recently a lot of history and other professors got together and produced a report that said, in general, when a more technologically advanced society comes and runs into a less technologically advanced society, never really works that well for less technologically advanced society. Saying that if the idea is, if the aliens show up here, they are not going to open us into a new era of benevolence and wonderment. Chances are we're going to be a workforce or something like that.
Hold on. Tell it to E.T. Come on, man. That guy couldn't have been filled with more love.
I know. But just in general, if they show up, chances are we're screwed. I'm just saying, guys. Yeah. So don't get too excited about the blue people yet. All righty. Sportsmanship is for losers. Beauty product works too well, or obviously.
Sportsmanship is for losers.
Sportsmanship is for losers. That's at least what the governing body of Canadian hockey says. Yes, in the hockey junior leagues, you are no longer allowed to have the post-game handshake.
What?
Yeah, because people are getting too punchy. Yeah, they started fighting and hitting each other during the post-game handshake. So the people in charge said, I have a solution. No handshake. So, yes, how do we teach the kids to sportsmanship and how to, kind of like, okay, we had this contest and now you lay it to the side and this is how we deal with things because people started fighting. They said, I got an idea. Let's not do that anymore.
Tell me you're not flashing back to the Hanson brothers in Slapshot when they're skating around.
Yes.
Then the ref comes up screaming, we're listening to the song.
The thing for me is that I look at this and go, your solution is to not have the handshake. You couldn't take the kids that were fighting and suspend them for like 4 or 5 games. I tell you what, You sit a kid that fights after a match and you sit him for 5 games, dude's not punching anybody at the end of the game anymore. I guarantee you. And but the idea is, nope, sorry, the only solution we have is to not do this anymore. Idiots. Okay, final choice this morning, sir. Either beauty product works too well or obviously more of an Old Testament fan.
Oh, yeah, let's go beauty.
Yeah, obviously, this is a beauty product that is working too well. Sephora shoppers are being cautioned to watch out for the Sol de Janeiro Delicia Drench Body Butter. Why? And you have to say it that way. Because evidently spiders find it sexy. Yes, there are reports right now. Yes, spiders. There are reports that when you use the Sol de Janeiro Delicia Drench Body Butter, so you have to say it like that. It's a contract. It retails for $22 to $48. People are reporting that when they put it on, it seems to attract spiders. There seems to be some sort of a sense that as they're doing it, people are all the time on social media saying, I put this stuff on, and instantly there's a wolf spider. There's another spider. It's around me.
Oh, my God.
So again, there's no actual scientific proof. But if it shows up on the Tickety Talks, you know it has to be true. So, yeah, people are really, really worried.
James or G to try it in the studio.
We will have to. Now, my mind goes,
sponsor.
Where on the body are we going to put it? Because this could get interesting.
Listen, as long as they're applying it to themselves, I don't care.
I just
want to know what happens with the spiders.
Yes, that's what we got to see. We got to see. I love that you put it on, you get spiders. All right, that is it. That is all of you choose the news, sir. You're the winner. I'm the loser. Back to you. You got 20 seconds.
And we never get a chance to do our dang sponsor for that. We've at least built one into the Thorpe Report, and thank God for that. Hey, listen, when we come back, our guy on the ground out there in Israel, he's been all over the place, Neil Dobro. He's going to join us. We're going to have that conversation in just a moment. Stick around. It's George Brauchler on The George Show. Going to do something about this water. 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. It is hour 2 of 4. Charlie Kirk at 10. Dennis Prager after that. I still haven't figured out the morning show, though, that we've changed some things around, and we gave someone an hour here, and we got rid of an hour there, and one thing leads to another, and then it's Seb Gorka, and then it's Brandon Tatum, and then we go live and local back here again tomorrow at 6 a.m. As you know, since October the 7th. Tons going on over in Israel between Hamas, the Palestinians on the Gaza Strip, and the IDF, Israeli Defense Force. Our guy on the ground throughout all of this has been Neil Dobro. He is a former Denverite, current resident of Israel. I don't even know if he has plans on coming back, by the way, but he has been actively engaged in this, not just as someone on the ground there, but as someone trying to make a difference. He has taken time out of his evening over there to be with us yet again. Neil, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, George. Thanks for having me.
You've got a lot to talk about, things that you've done. In fact, you've even gone down to what you described to me, at least in your text, as the Gaza envelope. What is that, and why were you there?
So the Gaza envelope are all the communities around Gaza itself, and they were the ones that were hit the hardest by the invasion on October the 7th. So we went with a group called Unity Warriors. Your listeners can look them up on the internet. They give equipment and supplies to the troops. So, for example, now they need winter clothing. And we took down 200 trauma kits, emergency trauma kits, that literally saved lives of soldiers. And if your listeners want to participate in that, I'll be glad to send you a link of where they can do that, or they can go online. But that was our mission. Went down with Rich Sokol, actually, and with some Unity Warrior people, and we delivered the supplies. So we got to visit with an awful lot of soldiers and had extensive conversations with them. And I can report to you that their spirits are very high. They're locked into their mission, despite the losses. They feel we thank them for serving, and they thanked us that they had the privilege to serve. So it was great to see them. We learned for sure they don't want to kill Palestinian civilians, but everybody is suspect down there. We heard of the story of a woman who came out with her baby and a white flag and came towards the soldiers to surrender. Soldiers went out to aid her, and it was a Hamas trap. And they opened fire, and soldiers got killed. I heard as many as 10 soldiers got killed.
Oh, boy.
And the IDF has moved civilians to a safe zone. Hamas has moved into the safe zone and started firing rockets at Israeli civilians, just to put Israel in the position of having to kill people to get to those rocket launches. And that's a dilemma for the soldiers, I can tell you.
Yeah, I'm reading this. Neil, if you haven't looked at this, it might give you a different perspective of what's going on over there from a little bit higher level. There's something called the Institute for the Study of Warfare. If you just go to understandingwar.org, they go through on a daily basis kind of the major movings of IDF and Hamas and all this other stuff. And they've talked about a couple things. One, the big one that I saw here was they make reference to a Wall Street Journal revelation of the intricate tunnel system that Hamas had developed in and around Gaza. I'm going to mispronounce the name of this place, but you tell me if I'm close. It's Beit. Is that Beit Lahia? Beit Lahia?
Yes.
Beit Lahia.
Yes.
They've said that in the Gaza Strip that the IDF has located about 1,500 tunnel shafts and routes in the Gaza Strip since the beginning of the ground operation. That's just since the beginning. And they use those shafts to pop up and snipe at the soldiers and do exactly what you described right there. They also create the environment in which the IDF can't launch a typical ground campaign against a uniformed, known opponent. I mean, these people by design are, as you pointed out, trying to create scenarios where they're intermixed with the civilians. And there's only a couple options, and that is do nothing or do something that puts civilians unintentionally at risk.
Right. That's exactly right. And the blame for all of that doesn't lie with the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces. It lies strictly with Hamas, who puts their own people in danger. We heard of stories of tunnels being found under babies' beds and in kindergartens and certainly in hospitals and under mosques.
Unbelievable.
Right. And
unbelievable.
Hamas.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Neil. You had also said, I want to talk about what an end game looks like here. I'm over here, back where it's relatively safe, and all I hear about are the growing cries for a ceasefire, 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 all this nonsense disconnected from the reality that a ceasefire with a functional, even existing Hamas can provide nothing by way of lasting peace, meaningful peace. But that's what I hear. When you're over there in Israel, what is being told to you about how this thing resolves?
Well, you know, there are various opinions and nothing has been set firmly. But I can tell you that among everybody that I speak with, there's a resolve to finish this thing. Look, it's like if you had a cancerous tumor and your surgeon went in and said, well, I got 60% of it. You know, there was too much blood, too much bleeding, whatever. I couldn't finish the job. You know what's going to happen. The tumor will come back.
That's right.
But nobody said after Dresden, Hitler's had enough. We don't have to remove him from power. Let's just let him be.
What was the negotiated peace with the Nazis going to look like? How? Right. I mean, this is crazy.
Right. You can't negotiate with people who want to kill each and every one of you, each and every Jew. And then, by the way, after they kill Jews, Christians are the next target. So you can't negotiate with people like that. You only have to eliminate them. And that's the position that we're in. So we've tried incentives. Listen, in 2005, we completely and mistakenly, I feel, withdrew from Gaza. And we said to them, okay, you want a state? Here's your little state. See what you can do. And we left them with millions of dollars worth of the most advanced greenhouses in the world to start an economy. There was all kinds of aid, all kinds of business incentives for them. And what did they do? They elected Hamas. Hamas violently threw off the Palestinian Authority, the PA. They threw them off of the tops of buildings, and they created a military base. So when we give concessions, we show weakness, and what we get back is rockets and military incursions like we just got. And I think people in Israel have realized it. There's some polls show a 44% shift to the right in the political views of people here. Now, you know, that the world doesn't get it, and even people in the United States don't get it. We don't have another choice. We cannot live with Hamas. And we can't trust our security to other people, certainly not to the UN. The UN is supposed to push Hezbollah, and they didn't do it. And
Neil, let me ask you this then. How does this, what are they telling you? Is there a calendar they give you that we hope to be done by X number of months or weeks? Or I read somewhere that Netanyahu's talking about, hey, settle in for the long haul. What does that even mean? And does Israel believe, and is it willing to persist in an environment in which world opinion, and I don't know that this is really happening, it's just the sense from the reporting, continues to shift towards, hey, we need to end this now. We need to figure out a way to get some sort of a peace with these monsters who behead babies.
Right. I think that there's resolve to finish it. We don't have any other choice. We can't live with them in power. So we have to persevere. And they're talking now, I've heard people talking about it's going to take a year. Not at this level, but in fact, we're probably scaling down a little bit now. But however long it takes, we're going to occupy Gaza. We're going to make sure that no military force such as Hamas or anybody else can rise up to threaten the Jewish people and threaten the nearby towns like the ones that we were in last week. We really have no other choice, and I think there's great resolve to finish it. So I see it being low level for a long term, and somebody will have to come in and redo the education system, which under the UN has taught the Palestinian children terrible things, genocide. You know, they teach them, if I kill 3 Jews and Muhammad kills 4 Jews, how many Jews are dead? That's math. Absolutely. That's what they teach. The highest value is to kill Jews. And we've got to change that education system if there's going to be any kind of hope for peace. Not in our generation, but in generations to come. So we have to be there.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was done.
No, I was just saying we're talking with Neil Dobro, our guy on the ground in Israel. Neil, you've got some other things you're going to be doing too in the near term. What is that?
Well, we're headed back down south probably tomorrow to deliver more kits and to meet with more soldiers. We saw this last trip, and we're going to visit Kfar Aza, which is the scene of one of the worst atrocities. There were 3 very, very badly hit southern communities. Many were hit, but we're going to visit that again. We saw amazing things there, burnt out houses. And when I say burnt out houses, the residents were inside and they were burnt to death. We saw in some of the houses dishes still in the sink and laundry in the dryers. We know that women were right there in front of their families, and beheadings were done by Hamas with garden hoses. So we want to be there to witness history so that when people say that it didn't really happen or it wasn't, well, we know that we were there. We also visited the scene of the Nova Music Festival, where Hamas came in when they did their invasion, and through their drones, they spotted this music festival of young people going on. And they went in and they murdered hundreds and hundreds of young people and gang raped the women. So it was very powerful being there. We saw posters of the kids who were killed. We met with parents of kids, parents of kids who had been killed in the murder, and we spoke with them. And there's a feeling of disbelief. Israel will never be the same after October 7th. So,
how do you think what are the lingering differences it's going to leave with Israel?
Well, I think that the blind hope, the blind faith of being able to have a 2-state solution and live peacefully with our Palestinian cousins, that we could do that is off the table. We can't. And I think that will linger. I don't think we're going to fall for it. So this idea of a ceasefire only helps Hamas, only helps them to regroup. So we're not going to give in to a ceasefire. Even the limited ceasefire we had for the hostages cost many, many Israeli lives, Israeli soldiers' lives. And we see that that would recur. So we're definitely against a ceasefire. And we oppose people in the States and elsewhere who call for it.
Does this accelerate the discussion about a two-state solution? I mean, does this, like the idea that, hey, there's the carrot and the stick, here's the stick right now, we're going to get rid of Hamas, and then if you guys want to talk about managing and governing yourselves, we can have that conversation, or how does it work? Not that they weren't before,
I don't
but you know
so.
what I mean.
I first of all, two states hasn't worked for 75 years. And there has been numerous offers to give them states, starting in 1948, during Ehud Barak's term as president back in the early 2000s. We almost begged them to take it, gave them 99% of their territory, every offer has been refused, and every offer has been met with more terrorism. I think that the discussion of two states is off the table, at least in this generation. What has to happen is what happened in Germany after World War II, where you had a process of denazification of Germany. And I think that's what you have to do. These people, Hamas, who carried out these atrocities, are worse than the Nazis. Clearly, they have genocide as their intent. And the Nazis, at least, were ashamed of what they did. They murdered Jews, but they went home at night and got drunk and hid what they did. Hamas, on the other hand, filmed the whole thing with GoPros and are proud of what they did. And we have conversations. We've intercepted conversations. One Hamasnik calling up his father. Father, look what I did today. I killed myself 10 Jews. And he's proud of it.
Jeez.
So it's going to be a long time. And there's no leadership to make a two-state solution with. The Palestinian Authority is as bad as Hamas. They believe in doing it in stages. Hamas believes in one stage.
Well, okay. Then what's the answer? Because if I'm listening out there to us talk right now, I'm thinking, okay, if that's not the answer, when do we get to the end game? But now what? Let's say we get Hamas out of there. We eradicate Hamas. What's next? Right.
Well, I think that's the first step. And you have to understand that Hamas won't be 100% eradicated. That the population there very much supports Hamas. 65% of the Arabs in Gaza and 85% in Judea and Samaria, the area around I live, support what happened October 7th. So if we just get rid of Hamas and leave it, it will come back. So we've got to be there to occupy and ensure security and to re-educate the Palestinian people to peace and what it means to live in peace with their neighbors. They
good luck.
Also have to be dissuaded from the notion that they can get rid of Israel. When they feel strong, when they feel victorious, that's when they strike.
Neil, here's the problem.
So,
I know you see this.
No.
When you've spent the last 2 generations, maybe longer, and I've seen some of these videos on social media too, training kids to grow up to hate Jews the way you've described and thinking of them as less than human and want to seeing them eradicated. Once you've done that to in essence, the intellectual DNA of a generation or 2 generations, you can't negotiate that away. I don't know how you fix that. I'm not sure how we did it with the Nazis and the Germans post World War II, but it feels like this is going to be a couple generations at a minimum from being close to a place where you can talk about what peaceful coexistence looks like.
Yes, I think that's true. Many years ago, a very dear friend of mine who lives in Israel, and who, by the way, is a leftist, said to me, there won't be a solution for this in our lifetime. And I didn't believe him. I'm an optimist. And I said, no, we'll solve it. But he was right. It won't be in our lifetime. But I'm still an optimist, and I still think it can be done, and I still think that we can live in peace. But it's got to change on the other side. Israelis are ready now. We want it. But we know that if we lay down our arms, there'll be a bloodbath. And the Gazans have to know that if they lay down their arms, there'll be peace. And there would be peace. So, but we've got to, as you say, it's in their DNA, and we have to change the DNA. We have to change their society.
Neil Dobro, keep up the good fight, man. My last question to you is always going to be the selfish one for me. Still targeting for the moment, getting in there, flying in there in the latter part of this month. How safe are we talking getting in there to Tel Aviv?
Oh, I think there's no problem. There's been no attack on any planes landing in Tel Aviv. And look, there's still some dangers, but it's not a day-to-day thing. We're degrading their rocket ability every day. That's the only way they can reach Tel Aviv is by rocket. And the chance of getting hit by a rocket is very, very slim. There have been very few casualties. And I think if people want to come over here, it's safe. Many people are visiting now, making solidarity missions. I don't think
Rich Sokol back over there with his family.
He's here now. We spend New Year's Eve together, and we're going down to Gaza together. So absolutely, we're looking forward to it.
Based on what you've described, Neil, I know my kids will ask the question, is it less likely to get hit by a rocket here or there? I think the answer is here, but I get what you're saying. I mean, that makes me feel a lot better. I just don't want this thing to broaden. And when I see the Navy sinking some Houthi boats, when I see some stuff taking place in Syria and above the border there in Lebanon, I start to think to myself, at what point are we unable to hold back the opposing forces that decide this is our chance? Let's all bum rush Israel at the same time. I don't know that that's going to happen. I think that's obviously the big worry, but I don't know that that's going to happen.
I think the way that it is most likely to happen is if Israel shows weakness. Because in this part of the world, if you show weakness, you're in trouble. You're going to get attacked. So we don't want to go looking for fights, but I think that we want to show strength, and hopefully that's what we're going to do. Now we're going to get a fight up north, no matter what, because we have over 100,000 citizens of Israel in the north who cannot return to their home. So we've got to do what Resolution 1701 of the United Nations said and move Hezbollah north of the Litani River. Will they go peacefully? I don't think so. So I think there's going to be wider war, but I'm optimistic that it won't spread.
Let's just wait till February for that. That's all I'm saying. Wait till I get back home. Neil Dobro, I think we might have you on before I head out there, but if not, man, I'm obviously going to coordinate with you offline and try to figure out a way to hook up with you.
Right. We're looking forward to that. I've already got some things planned for you.
Good, cool. Hey, stay safe. Say hi to Rich for me, and we'll be back in touch.
Will do. Thank you, George.
Happy New Year, man. Hey, that's Neil Dobro. He's our guy on the ground out there in Israel, along with Rich Sokol, who you've heard from. Let's cut away for a break. I am interested in there's so many things going on, by the way, current events wise today, but I do want to have a conversation with you about where are you with this? Are you in a different place now, almost 3 months removed? Almost 3 months removed from the attack by Hamas. Do you want to see this thing brought to an end? Do you want to see the ceasefire sooner rather than later? Do you disagree with Neil? I don't. I simply can't envision a world in which Hamas is allowed to persist. I can't envision. How do you negotiate with those people? And according to Neil, the PLO, the Palestinian, the PLO, but the Palestinian alternative is no better. They've spent generations teaching kids to hate Jews and see them as animals and less than human beings. What do you do with that? How do you fix that? To me, this is a horrible tragedy in that there are clearly Palestinians who are not Hamas who are victims of what's taking place here, but I don't see them as victims of the IDF. There is no alternative. If you can think of an alternative to the IDF moving into Gaza and through Gaza to clean out Hamas, a meaningful solution to this, call me and tell me what it is. 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. We'll check the text as well. Listen, stick around. We're going to cut away for a quick break, and we'll come back. I am, for those of you listening, feeling like I have this urge to pee because of the water spectacular going on over my shoulder, I'm making efforts, I swear to you, every single break to figure out how to turn it off. I may just end up having to relocate inside. We may do that at the top of the hour. Stick around. George Brauchler, 710 KBLA. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. My thanks to Neil Dobro from Israel, giving us the update on everything going on there. For those of you that watched the ball drop on New Year's, I did, from New York. They had Green Day. Couple thoughts on that one. A little bit of controversy. I'll mention that second. First, these dudes, and I told Billy this off air, these guys don't look like they're in their 50s. And for a guy that's in his 50s, that I'm seeing myself on camera right now, and I'm like, what have I not done with my skin that I should have? Because these guys, none of them look any different. None of them look really much different than they did 30 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, when they were.
Yeah. What money, extra time, and lots of good skincare will do for you. Yes.
Is it too late? Can we not reverse it? Because these guys look great and they sound really good. They sound strong.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, it's too late for me, not for you. You still have hope. Mine, no.
I don't think so. I don't think so. Mine's genetic. Yeah. But the other thing they did that was controversial was they slipped in a line about MAGA into their song.
Yeah.
And it's not the first time they've done it. I did a little research on it. Apparently they've done this before, but it created some controversy. And I guess I get it.
Why? Get it how?
Why I get it. Why did everybody get all
butthurt? What was the reason? Why?
No, I'm not butthurt by it at all.
A lot of people did.
I can get how people that are watching, the Dick Clark's ball drop, that's an awkward thing to say out loud like that. But when you're turning in to watch that, you're like, hey, I want to be entertained. And then all of a sudden you get punched in the face with a political message. I get that part of it. I don't get the part where anyone's surprised that it was Green Day that did it. Or that they would do it, but I can see someone saying, "Whoa! I didn't expect this to turn into like turning into the Academy Awards and listening to one of those goofball actors say something in their speech that's political." It's like I didn't tune in for that.
It's one line. They did 4 songs, and it's one line. It's not the same thing as tuning into the Academy Awards and someone turning their acceptance speech into a 4-minute diatribe on the evils of capitalism. This is one line inside of one song, and everybody went, "Oh, I hurt my feelings," which I find absolutely ironic because the people that called everyone else snowflakes, the people that line up behind Trump in part because of his abrasiveness, because of the name calling, because of how aggressive he is, those people that had the T-shirts on that said "F your feelings," those people go, "Oh my God, this man said something about our God King." Come on, people. Pull up your diapers and get a hold of yourself. Who cares? But the idea is, Green Day has done this forever. I mean, come on. Our own little giant baby that has his own social media site, Elon Musk, goes on and, "Well, I guess Green Day is not Rage Against the Machine anymore." Hey, you moron, that's the wrong band. Have you been paying attention? Do you even? I mean, Elon Musk showed that he doesn't even know a Green Day song outside of the pop ones. He has no idea who they are.
He's been busy inventing, Billy.
Yes, inventing stuff that never happens. Yeah, how about that Hyperloop company? That worked out great, huh? Elon? You said we were going to go from L.A. to New York in 45 minutes, and you just went bankrupt and closed it. Nice job.
Oh, is that true?
Worked out. Yeah, they closed it down.
Well,
the Hyperloop was a bunch of crap anyway.
He's a dreamer.
I know, but
get it.
He's a dreamer that was able to raise $500 million on the back of his BS dream. Yeah, good job, guys. Nice job.
It seems like you and I ought to be able to at least raise $50,000 on the backs of our crappy
dreams,
at least, middle class dreams.
My chance of being a snake breeder. But the idea is with Elon, Elon goes out there and he gets mad at Green Day. Oh, now they're this. Have you paid attention? Green Day has always been a little bit, anti-political as far as establishment. I understand you want them to take shots at Biden. However, they do seem to be more liberal. That's kind of the punk ethos. Do you remember?
It just didn't bug me. Yeah. It just didn't bug me. I get it. I understand why people can be disappointed or upset. And in part, Green Day didn't do it because it was nothing. They did it because they thought it was meaningful to do it. And so we can't diminish it all the way. It was just one line.
And they got attention. They said one line, and they got more attention than anything else they could have done.
They became relevant again. Yeah, for sure.
Outside of walking out and being naked on stage. The other part that I have to remind people is that was a song from the American Idiot album, You Freak Shows. Are you not familiar with the entire album? That album in and of itself, despite being a rock opera, is also an indictment of the George Bush years. That's what it is. At the core of that entire message is an indictment of the George Bush years in America. And then we're surprised that they changed one of the lines in the political song to be relevant today? Really?
Yeah.
Again, you people stop criticizing them if you're not paying attention to the band. You can get mad, but you can get all butthurt, but it just shows that you don't know what you're doing. You're talking out of your rear end. I mean, Elon Musk showed that he has no idea what he is doing as far as commenting on either pop culture or on Green Day.
Yeah.
That he has no relevance as far as the band. So
Elon will be in the news a lot,
Elon.
I imagine, this year. One other thing, again, this has become, post that first segment in the 7 o'clock hour, Billy, this has become a bit of a free-for-all potpourri of news because you referenced Elon. Something else happened, not favorable for him. He had sort of reached out to Mr. Beast, who we had mentioned last week at some point, and suggested, hey, why don't you put up some of your videos here on X?
Yeah.
And Mr. Beast said, no. He said, listen, you can't possibly come up with a fraction of what it costs in terms of monetization, a fraction of the cost of what it takes for me to produce these things. So when you get that fixed, give me a call. That was in essence what he said. A lot of the reports just seem to be like, hey, he rebuffed him. It was sort of rebuffing, but it wasn't like, I hate you, Elon. It was your platform doesn't generate money. And that's how this thing gets funded. I can't do this for free.
Yeah. Mr. Beast is incredibly savvy based on social media. And he looked at how big Tucker Carlson's show has become and went, hard pass. Tucker Carlson's show. Yeah, it's not big. Nobody cares. So that's the lesson here. Because you remember a number of months ago, Tucker was leaving Fox and they're like, oh my God, he's on the X. He's going to be amazing. And he's going to, now he's irrelevant. He is largely irrelevant. That's what has happened.
Really?
Yes. When is the last time that you've heard anything
on there other than clips? No, I haven't never watched the whole show.
I know, but when is the last time that you have seen anything that Tucker has done or interviewed that's anything other than just laughable at this point? Where is he advancing the conversation as he used to on Fox?
UFOs.
Where is he again? He's got nothing. That's the part. Is he's got nothing. And he's so irrelevant at this point. He has gone into the ether of Bill O'Reilly, where they don't get to, they don't change the conversation anymore. So that's
Bill
what Mr.
O'Reilly
Beast
still
is.
alive?
Yes, he is. Yes. But that's the thing is, Mr. Beast looked at the reach that X has and
that's
said,
what it sounded like.
No.
It was all like, hey, I can't make it on what you can generate. I just can't. These videos cost millions. You can't produce enough revenue to justify it.
I think YouTube is the number 3 largest social platform. If not, it's in the top 5.
What?
Yeah. If not, X isn't even in the top 15.
What's 1 or 2?
I think Facebook is 1, and I think Facebook is 1 or 2, and then there's the Chinese, whatever the thing that they do.
TikTok.
It's the same thing. Yeah, TikTok's up there, but I think that's why I'm not sure if it's 4 or 5. But there's another social media site inside of China, just based on numbers that I forgot the name. I can't pull the name out of my stupid head right now. But that's normally number 1.
Your head you're reaching into.
So,
okay. Well, listen, this has turned into sort of a free-for-all thing on this, which I'm happy to do because there were other things that that popped up in the news over the last few days that I thought probably worth a little bit of a chitty chat here. One of them is there's a woman named Nikki Haley, former UN ambassador, former 2-time governor of South Carolina, who appears to be now the number 2 challenger, overtaking Ron DeSantis in a couple of the different states like New Hampshire. Now, granted, she's still way behind the DJT, but she did a couple things last week. We didn't really talk about them, but I think they're important for a conversation to have about what's coming for us in the future here. I mean, by this time next year, think about that, Billy. By this time next year, we'll be talking about whoever the president-elect is. And at this point, I don't know. The decent money could go on either one of these guys, but I think Trump could do this thing. We'll be talking about that. But until then, we're on the road towards this. And one of the things that Nikki Haley said was that she didn't think that the Civil War was, initially, she said she thought that the Civil War wasn't about slavery. That turns out to have been in conflict with a whole lot of things, including history itself. But she ended up retracting that and then coming back and saying, yes, states' rights. But when the states' rights being exercised are the states' rights to own people and stuff like that, you feel like, okay, maybe slavery was part of it. But here's the one I wanted to chat about. Billy, I don't know if you saw this or not, but she came out and said in advance she would pardon President Trump if he was found guilty. And this is when she was getting bludgeoned by that 9-year-old boy. Do you remember that? I think we talked about that last week. That 9-year-old boy, the plant, Adam, who showed up and said, Mom and Dad told me to say you're just like John Kerry.
Yeah.
And then he asked her if she would pardon Trump. You and I mentioned this a long time ago when these indictments came down. This was going to become part of the litmus test as these candidates who are trying to defeat him for the primary are working their way through the country. And sure enough, here it is. It shows up and Nikki Haley gives the answer, yes, I will pardon him. And it's the first huge misstep other than the slavery thing where I'm like, dang it, why did you take the bait? Why did you do that? Because to me, this is no different than somebody campaigning on, if you elect me, I will sue the opioid makers. Or if you elect me, I will go after Joe Biden and his son Hunter. I mean, the idea that we are continuing to turn the criminal justice process into the political justice process, this feeds right into that. And I'm incredibly disappointed that anybody would announce in advance, I will pardon Trump before we see the evidence, before a jury gets to weigh in. I just feel like it cheapens the entire process. I don't know that there's any other person on the planet, certainly not in the United States, where they would get this kind of treatment up front, which is to have a candidate who's running for an office that has the power to do it. I'm telling you, it's just another nail in the coffin of the criminal justice system. People are already, as you know, texting in the show, calling in the show, the FBI, bad to the bone, burn it to the ground. Vivek Ramaswamy saying that he is going to instantly eradicate that. Like, what was it the other day? He tweeted out something like, I'm going to do away with the ATF and the DEA and the FBA and the FBI, and we're going to start over. I'm like, which day? Like, what day are you doing that? Is it like your first? But all of this is part of the broader narrative that we simply can't trust the criminal justice system anymore. And I'm telling you, folks, you take that plank away, there is nothing left. We devolve into anarchy because there's nothing left. If you can't trust to be able to pick up the phone and call the police or call the sheriff, and I don't think this applies to the sheriff yet. And I say yet because this political thing is like a disease. It's like a virus. It does not stop. But I'm interested in having the conversation with you. Does it make sense to you that a candidate should have to pledge the willingness to pardon Trump as part of this process of winning the nomination or at least being competitive? And I'm going to put my cards on the table. I'm absolutely opposed to it. And it has nothing to do with my perception of the strength of these cases. It has nothing to do with my perception of the man himself. It is the process. And you simply don't use a campaign as a vehicle to promise an outcome when it comes to the exercise of prosecutorial discretion. Any person that tells you, I will prosecute this person or entity, or I will pardon this person or entity as an effort to try to win your vote, you should shun them immediately. Do not vote for that person. They are bad for America. And now here I am stuck saying, I like Nikki Haley. I do. I think she'd be a great alternative. But damn, you just can't do that. And when Trump comes out and says, I'm going to go after Biden, I'm going to go after, I'm like, no, how can you support a person that does that as a vehicle to get elected? Am I wrong there? Is that what you want to see out of candidates now? 303-696-1971. My name's George. This is my show. You're listening to 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Hey, listen, we've got callers on the line. I promise to get to you. I just simply don't have enough time left in this hour to do it fairly because I want to have a more detailed conversation with you about your thoughts than just kind of a hit and run thing. So you stay on the line, Joe, Lacey, everybody else calling in, 303-696-1971. We'll get to it. Got a little back and forth going on here from someone who's super courageous. Can't call in. Here's one. So much to discuss, but to keep piling on Trump without talking about all the things going on in D.C. and Biden is painful. I said, what's your chosen topic? He doesn't have an answer, but says Brauchler blames his losing AG on Trump and won't man up and own his own failure is obvious. That is a great topic, but it's actually not accurate. So I said, hey, man, call in, have the courage. You've got the accusations. Let's put them to the test, but only if you have the guts. I have an actual legitimate job. EITH, which I think is with responsibility. So apparently only the time to listen and complain by text, but can't pick up the phone and man up. Says one day on vacation he'll call in. I won't hold my breath. But that's what we exist here for, folks, is to have conversations on the phone. Love to have them with you. All you have to do is pick up the phone, 303-696-1971, and we'll get to your calls. Here's another one. Billy, you got to talk me down. You are entirely right about Haley saying she would pardon Trump. That is no better than Letitia James saying she would. How much? What'd you say, Billy? Oh, Billy screaming 20 in the phone as I try to figure out what's going on. Hey, listen, let's just stick around. We'll do all the texts. We'll do all the calls. Back with you and me, 303-696-1971. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS, halfway through the first show of 2024. It's already enlightening, entertaining. A lot of good texts coming in, but I love the phone calls. Here's what we're doing. We've been talking about just recently here this pledge by Nikki Haley, who I like. I like Nikki Haley, and I get it. Vivek Ramaswamy is desperate to be relevant and to distance himself from the fact that he's a 15-year-old with no meaningful experience on anything international and national relations, what turns out to be a big deal when it comes to be president. So he has been tearing down Nikki Haley with some success, by the way, with the grassroots folks, as being this corporate loving warmonger type, whatever it is. None of that makes any difference to me. I wouldn't cast a vote for Vivek Ramaswamy in the primary unless he were the only one on the ballot. And then I would, because, of course, that would be the only choice that I had. But 35 years old or whatever he is, all he is a bomb thrower and an idea guy. However, as much as I would prefer Nikki Haley over Vivek Ramaswamy, and she has shown herself to be probably the second option to Trump, although not going to win either. She came out last week and in a planted question from a 9-year-old named Adam in some setting where clearly the 9-year-old's parents planted some pretty good information with the kid. And everybody loves it when you take a third grader and you turn them into a tool for your political, issues. Bottom line is he asked her if she would pardon Trump. Now, I don't know that was specific to, and Billy, I don't even know, maybe there's sound out there on it, but I don't know if it was with regard to a specific case or not, but she said, yeah, I would. And man, I lost a lot of respect for her in that answer. And I would lose respect for anybody who pledged to use their prosecutorial powers as a measure of their commitment to an individual, or even as an attempt to try to earn votes in a campaign. I mean, it would be one thing to say, let me tell you what, I'm going to take a hard look at everything that the Department of Justice has done related to January the 6th, a hard look. And where I see an injustice, where I see something that was done that even if it complied with the rules of evidence and the statutes, if I thought it was wrong, by God, I'm going to take action. That would be one thing, right? Or I'm so pissed off at the amount of crime that we have here, I'm going to target violent criminals. And if you commit a violent crime, you should expect to go to, that's different, right? But if you're the kind of person who stands up and says, I'm going to prosecute all the opioid makers for all of this addiction out here if you elect me, or I'm going to prosecute Hunter Biden or Joe Biden. No, thank you, man. That is not how this game should be played. You are politicizing the criminal justice system in a way that cheapens it and further erodes any trust in its outcomes. Well, this is the flip side of that coin. Elect me and I will pardon so-and-so. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine the shoe on the other foot? And now back and forth, we have people campaigning for whoever the highest profile political, quote unquote, political prisoner is. I will do it. We have to resist it. We have to end this thing. But so far, that hasn't happened. We got callers on the line, 303-696-1971. Maybe you disagree with me. Give me a call and let's have the conversation. Joe, you're on 710 KNUS. Happy New Year, man.
Hi, George. Well, with regard to your question, first of all, anything Nikki Haley says is virtually irrelevant. Honestly, Nikki Haley, we'll look back at her as, I would say Dan Quayle, but he actually made it to vice president. It is not going to happen for Nikki Haley. Just talking about what she says is waste of breath. The truth is, and I made this prediction last year, but I'll go ahead and extend it to 2024, and you will agree with me in less than 30 days. Trump will win every GOP primary, including Iowa, New Hampshire, and Nikki Haley, South Carolina, even Florida, Maine, yes, Colorado too. There won't be one state that goes for any of the Keebler elves. So get over that.
What do you think about this pledge to pardon?
Well, again, irrelevant. Nothing Nikki Haley says matters.
It's not irrelevant
honestly.
for purposes of this conversation, though, right? Like you would expect that Trump would pardon. Hang on, Joe, hang on. You would expect that Trump would pardon himself, right, if he got elected, and end those federal prosecutions.
He hasn't done anything, and there's nothing that he has done that will come to a pardon, because as I predicted last year, and you laughed at me, the Supreme Court is about to weigh in on all of this, push it to after the 2020. What? Yeah, that's right.
What are they going to do?
Pay attention.
I'm
for one,
watching.
they're going to push. Okay, here. First of all, they're going to push any relevant case that the Democrats thought they had to 2025.
Why?
Hello, 2025.
Why would they do that?
And well, it's very simple. If these cases are not political, then they don't depend on the election. Therefore, they can wait. And that's going to be a very big point for them. And I will say this: there are two justices. There are two justices that could weigh in to change things. Barrett and Kavanaugh, and they're going to have to decide: do we, who was it? Do we want a republic, or do we want communism? Because you see, if we, that's right. Because if we go ahead and take case,
to let the trials go forward now?
I'll explain it to you. Because if we allow the judicial system to go ahead and weigh in on candidates because of, all of the cases you could go through, and it's just whimsical BS.
I don't think so.
Yeah, it is. They're whimsical BS, including your J6 case and all of that garbage.
My J6
and
case.
The 2020
How
election,
did it become my J6 case?
Well, because you all often say that the 2020 election wasn't stolen, even though Garland Favorito would get right on here and chase it in you. He would shout you down. That's right. Garland Favorito, you don't know who he is, I'm sure. That just proves my case. You don't even understand.
Is this the guy that hasn't won in court yet?
Oh, Georgia is going to go for Trump because of Garland Favorito, by the way, buddy. And you don't think so,
Joe?
But it's
Joe,
true
why do you
because
slip
he's
into
proving.
buddy? Why do you?
He's proving that the judiciary is corrupt. He's proving that the lawyers that are running all these prosecutors, all the DOJ,
which judiciary is corrupt, Joe? Which judiciary is corrupt?
Colorado's judiciary is corrupt. Georgia's judiciary is corrupt.
Which members are corrupt?
Do I have to go down and get any Democrat selected judge is pretty much corrupt.
Three of those Democrat selected judges, appointed judges, voted to keep Trump on the ballot. Are they corrupt?
Are you talking about in Georgia?
Nope. Talking about right here in our state, buddy, Colorado. Three of those judges, justices voted to keep him on the ballot.
I applaud them.
I thought they were corrupt because they were any Democrat appointed judge.
Just a moment. It's just like, what's his name? I'm blocking his name. The attorney that is defending Trump now, who used to be considered a liberal, who's now going to come over to the Republican Party eventually. I can't think of his name, but the point is that these Democrats have lined up with the Democrat Party, and they're just corrupt. It used to be the judiciary wasn't a party position, but it is now. Come on, let's face it.
What?
Get over it. It is.
Joe,
it's
can we get back to
the?
Can we get back to the topic? I know you say it's irrelevant, it shouldn't matter, all that other stuff. Do you agree with politicizing pardons or prosecution during a campaign? Do you agree with a candidate who would say, I will prosecute this person? Could be Biden, Hunter, or Joe.
Okay.
Or I will
agree.
Or I will Joe, or I will pardon this person, DJT. Do you agree or disagree with politicizing prosecutorial discretion in that way?
Okay, I agree with this. In the case of Joe Biden is a traitor to the United States. Traitor. Yes, you heard me right. He needs to be prosecuted under two criminal prosecutions: treason and bribery. Now,
treason.
I know it has to be
a hanging offense.
It has to be done.
Treason.
That's right.
Death penalty for Joe Biden.
Yeah, if it was 1920, Joe Biden would swing. You got it. But it's after 2020, so there's more liberals in power, so he won't.
So,
but he should.
Joe, you avoided the question, man. You avoided the question.
Well, I'm telling you, I know I answered the question. In the case of Joe Biden, he is a traitor and should be prosecuted.
So you want a candidate to pledge on the campaign trail, if you elect me, I will seek to put Joe Biden to death.
If he's a traitor, yes.
No, you didn't say if, buddy. You said
he'd
be a traitor. He'd be a traitor, right? He is.
Yeah,
That's what you said.
That's right. He is.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is he has to be given due procedure.
Before he's hung,
I think
he's got to be given due process. I get it.
I do.
Yeah,
I believe in that. Just like Hitler. Right. He should have.
Wait a
now,
minute.
Hitler
What does that
killed
mean?
himself.
Just like Hitler.
Well, he would have been given due process, and then he would have been hung. That's right.
So I just want to be clear, though, because it's important that I understand where you're going with this. You agree with candidates pledging to prosecute President Biden for treason as a traitor and seek to put him to death on the campaign trail. You think that's totally appropriate?
Yes, I do. And you will eventually, because you'll realize that he sold our country down the river.
Never.
Well, then you would agree that then if you were in Hitler's Germany, you would say, oh, just let him do whatever he wants. If you're going to if you were running against Hitler in Germany, you would say, oh, we should just let him kill the Jews.
Nope.
Right.
I don't think so, buddy. There's not a single thing I've done that suggests that. But more to the point, you also then agree with Nikki Haley in pledging to pardon Trump for anything he might be convicted of or be prosecuted for in advance of the election. Do you agree with that?
Well, what is Donald Trump guilty of?
Why can't
Nikki
you
Haley?
Simply answer the damn question,
because
Joe?
The question is more complex than just
it's
I
not
agree
complex.
with George Brauchler, or
it's
no,
so
I
not
don't.
Complex. Buddy, there are two federal prosecutions over which the president of the United States would have authority.
Donald Trump has not done anything wrong.
So
why
you would
should
pardon him?
Anyone?
You would.
Why should anyone pardon him for anything? He's not guilty of anything.
Ooh. Yeah.
There
so
you go.
You don't have any trouble having a jury weigh in on that fact.
Well, actually, there's going to be probably a number of juries. Now, if these juries are corrupt juries, like in Atlanta, Georgia, like Fulton County, for example, then they may come back with a guilty verdict, and they should be overturned by the Supreme Court.
Yeah,
but if they're not, then they should be pardoned.
Joe, hang on. I know you know this. The president has no authority over the state prosecutions. You know that, right? Like
the governor should pardon him then.
We're only
if there
talking
was
about
any kind of incorrect
Joe, my God, man.
Jury.
Let me get the question out. You're only talking about the federal prosecutions, the January 6th one in Washington, D.C., with which I disagree, by the way, and the one down in Mar-a-Lago, which they have him dead to rights on. You're saying both of those should be done away with, and you're okay with a candidate campaigning on, I will either make those cases go away before they go to a jury, or I will pardon him if he's convicted. Is that fair?
Well, you've already weighed in on the dead to rights verdict that you just said, and that is a lie. I'll just say it right now. Yes, that's a lie. That is a lie. You see, you jumped to a conclusion there that is wrong, and that's
Buddy,
your
you just
premise
called
is wrong.
for hanging of Joe Biden because he's a traitor, and because I said they had President Trump dead to right on the papers case down in Mar-a-Lago,
That's exactly right. You got it. You got that wrong, and you got the other case wrong, too. Joe Biden is a traitor. Donald Trump is innocent of anything prosecutable by some kangaroo court in Florida or D.C.
Joe, welcome to 24, buddy. We're going to have some great conversations here in whatever time we have left on the air, but thank you for that. For those of you that have had the same aneurysm-like stroke that I have inside my noggin based on some of the logic there, we'll get plenty of opportunity here to talk about that in the near term. Do you agree with Joe? I think he avoided the question. And so I want to ask you this. Do you want a candidate? Do you respect a candidate? Would you, if there was going to be an alternative to Donald Trump, and I don't know that, I mean, look, the guy's going to win the nomination. The guy may very well win the presidency of the United States, but let's just suspend that for a moment because this is an important conversation, because it could happen anywhere. It could happen at the state level, the local level. We have already seen it with our own attorney general, right? Like our own attorney general, when he campaigned, said, if you elect me, I will sue the hell out of the opioid makers. Based on some sort of information or investigation he conducted? Nope, just stuff he's read like you and I did. Whether or not ultimately that turns out to be the right answer, the idea of using a campaign to promise an outcome in the criminal justice system. And again, pardons are not so much prosecutorial discretion as they are a function of an executive's clemency powers, but it falls under that criminal justice umbrella. Do you appreciate, respect, do you agree with a candidate who would say, I promise you this outcome? For Joe, it's you should promise to prosecute Joe Biden for treason and seek his death, which is just one of the most outlandish, craziest things I think I've ever heard. But again, that's how we start 2024. Or even as Nikki Haley has done, and that is to promise the pardoning of Donald J. Trump, whether you think he's guilty of something or not. 303-696-1971 is the number. Let me tell you about real estate out there. It's not 2024, folks. You are free of the holiday. Short of the MLK holiday coming up on the 15th, we've got a clear path all the way to President's Day and then pretty much on to spring break. People are going to start thinking about getting their houses ready to sell. You may be one of them. You may even be thinking about how in the heck am I going to get into the market with all of these interest rate cuts that are coming for us in 2024, 6 of them, if you believe the Fed. Well, you don't have to navigate those waters by yourself. You shouldn't. You should call up Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team at Keller Williams. These are just good folks. They have the same values you have. They believe in family the way you do, and they know this market like nobody else does. There's a reason they sell for more money on average than everybody else. There's a reason they sell faster than everybody else. There's a reason their volume is at where it's at, because they just get results. They want to put your family into the right situation. Give them a call at 833-301-SOLD, 833-301-SOLD. Or you can check them out at gayhasthebuyers.com. That's gay, G-A-Y-E, hasthebuyers.com. When we come back, we'll get to your calls at 303-696-1971. Your text, it's George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
Say goodbye to clutter and hello to convenience when you experience organization transformation in your home. Roll 'em Out Shelves, your clutter transformation experts, create affordable Colorado-crafted organized storage solutions. These custom options will maximize and organize your kitchen and bath storage as Roll 'em Out Shelves carefully designs and builds roll-out drawers to fit your space perfectly to clear the clutter. Contact owners Joyce and Brent at Roll 'em Out Shelves to schedule your free in-home estimate today.
would pardon Trump if he is found guilty, a leader needs to think about what's in the best interest of the country. What's in the best interest of the country is not to have an 80-year-old man sitting in jail that continues to divide our country. What's in the best interest of the country would be to pardon him so that we can move on as a country. And
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. That's Nikki Haley, I think, either responding to the 9-year-old. Someone texted in and said, how do you know it was a planted question? Listen, I know 9-year-olds can be super smart. I had 4 of them, but please don't try to run by me the idea that this kid is so up on current events that he even knows who John Kerry is. Was the guy even alive? Was that kid even alive when John Kerry was a candidate for president? I don't think so. But having said that, the question that was posed was about pardoning Trump. That was a great job by Billy in pulling that sound down. Now, get what she's saying there. She's talking about pardoning the president for the betterment of the country. That might actually be a legitimate reason to do it after and if he's convicted and sentenced. Like her description there of an 80-year-old man sitting in jail kind of presupposes that that's where this is going. 1, it presupposes a conviction, and 2, it presupposes if he's convicted that he's going to end up being incarcerated. I don't know that either of those things are going to happen. I don't know that. But I'll tell you that this idea that we're going to be on the campaign trail and make these pledges, and I think it's a mistake. I wish that someone had a better criminal justice background that was advising these governors and these presidential candidates, because that feels reckless to me. It feels like the answer she should have given was one that would have said, if he's convicted, and she should say, I'm not even sure that's going to happen. If he's sentenced to incarceration, any president, Republican or Democrat, would have to view his incarceration as something that would further divide this country, and they'd have to decide whether or not that's a factor to consider in pardoning him or commuting his sentence, which is a power that the Colorado governor has. We just saw him do it 28 times right before Christmas. That's a reasonable, honorable position that does not call into question and further politicize the credibility of the criminal justice system. But she didn't go there. She didn't go, and I'm disappointed. I don't think you get in the business of promising an outcome. Now, look, Joe's call has engendered a ton of texts, as it always does. Joe's wrong, but I think he knows that when he calls in. He gets worked up over things, and it causes him to lose sight of the hypocritical nature of his position. So on the one hand, he has no doubts at all that a candidate should pledge to prosecute Joe Biden for treason because he's a traitor. Obvious. It's so obvious. And then he should seek his death because that's the potential punishment, of course, for treason. But when it comes to Trump, he's upset that I say they have him dead to rights on this paper case down in Mar-a-Lago. Keep in mind, by the way, that having all the evidence and the facts and the law on your side isn't enough to guarantee a conviction in front of a jury, because jurors do what jurors want to do. But that case, and I've said this now ever since that indictment came down, that's the strongest case against Trump. I don't like the political nature of what has taken place with Letitia James in New York. I don't like the political nature of what has taken place with Fonnie Willis down in Fulton County. I don't like the overreaching, let's try to put a cherry on top by pinning January 6th to the president prosecution by Jack Smith in D.C. Those cases should all go the way of the dodo. And we should really be focusing on the one in Mar-a-Lago. And then the bigger question is, what do we do with it, right? But let's presuppose for a moment he gets convicted, Donald Trump does. And that's the other thing Joe brought up that I don't get. That the justices are going to weigh in. And if this isn't political, it should definitely take place in 2025. What? If somebody, Republican or Democrat, that's on the ballot is facing a prosecution, the mere fact that they're on the ballot should not derail that prosecution or delay it. In fact, as a voter, I want to know What we've seen are polls after poll that has come out and said that people's opinion of voting for Trump would be changed for a big chunk of them if he were to be a convicted felon. If that's real, if that's true, then we need to have the trial, don't we? I mean, the alternative is, what do you do? I mean, this is going to blow up the criminal justice system. This guy gets elected. Trump gets reelected, becomes president of the United States again. Do you expect the prosecutions to continue? I don't. And I don't think he would care. He would have no reason to care. He's not going to be impeached or recalled. I don't even think you can recall a president, but he's not leaving office till he's done. This guy, untethered to the need for public opinion or another election, my God knows what he could do. But in terms of himself, we know that this guy is about self-preservation more than any person I've ever seen in public life. So this guy is going to do away with the prosecutions against himself as president. There would be no other, you couldn't special prosecute this thing out. You couldn't get a special prosecutor or something to do this. He would just take the political hit because it's irrelevant. But I mean, I'm worried. I'm worried that we're at a place now where people are going to, one, stop calling law enforcement, not because they doubt law enforcement could end up actually doing something beneficial in terms of capturing somebody, but because they doubt the system is going to hold the bad guys accountable. Here at the local level, that's the concern. If you're in Denver, why call the police anymore? Not because of them, but because they go arrest someone for stealing your car. And then what? They get a quick hug. We call them a victim and we send them back on the street to steal your neighbor's car. I mean, at some point here, we're going to discourage people from seeing the criminal justice system as a viable and necessary part of democracy, of the republic. And we're just going to take things into our own hands. And you can hear it in Joe's voice. You can hear it in his voice. We want revenge. Joe Biden is a traitor and he should be put to death. As horrific as that idea is. You know what's coming next? It's going to be the mobocracy. It's going to be the mobocracy. You know who we should get on, Billy, is we should get on Vince Bizdek from the Gazette. He wrote a pretty compelling editorial, in my opinion, just right about the new year, referencing people to Lincoln's speech at the Lyceum. And he talked a little bit about this. It was actually pretty insightful. Maybe we should see if we should get Vince on. But this is the direction that we're going. And Nikki Haley has just now added to it. You know, Gerald Ford pardoned Richard Nixon. Now, you can agree or disagree with that decision, but he did it to heal America. But you know what? He didn't campaign on it. First off, the dude was never elected into that position. Ended up becoming vice president because Agnew resigned for his own corruption issues and then became president because of Nixon's corruption issues. I'm not disputing the idea that there's value to that, but you can't campaign on it. You can't politicize that kind of garbage because it cheapens this process. Whether you're promising to prosecute a Biden or promising to pardon a Trump, you simply can't do it. There has to be some idea of focusing on the integrity of the institution. And we've lost that. This is kind of a scary thing. This is also another scary thing. How about this text right here? George, Joe is right on every point. I'm starting to think this is Joe. Was this you texting in about you? The judiciary is corrupt. It has been corrupted for a long time. The Supreme Court of the United States and its partisan political rulings for the last 50 years and the unmerited witch hunt lawfare waged against Trump is proof of that. Killing babies is a Democrat Party sacrament. They created Roe versus Wade, and they would have never overruled it. Took GOP judges to do that. You probably believe OJ is innocent just because the court says so. Couple thoughts on that, texter. The court did not say OJ was innocent. A jury said he was innocent. I'm sorry, they didn't say he was innocent. They said not guilty. Nobody gets to say you're innocent of something. They say you're not guilty. And no, I don't believe that. I believe O.J. Simpson nearly beheaded his wife and murdered Ron Goldman. I have no doubts about that. The jury's decision in that case doesn't change my opinion on this. But this idea that the judiciary is corrupt, think about what you're saying there. Is the judiciary that overturned Roe versus Wade corrupt? Take a look at who was on the Supreme Court when Roe versus Wade happened. 1973. Which party was in control of the White House at the time? Who were the Republican appointees on the Supreme Court that ruled in favor of Roe versus Wade? Have you considered that? And if that's the case, how do you answer that? Is it some Republican nominees and appointees are corrupt, but others are not? Because what it feels like here, you and Joe and others have this same issue. And that is, if the outcome is the one I agree with, then it was done correctly. But if it was one I disagree with, it was the product of corruption. Think about that. 303-696-1971. Alexa, little tongue-in-cheek here. Now I will expect a water feature for all future shows. We could do that. Billy, we could get one of those water things that are kind of like the peaceful thing. You could put it in the back corner, and I don't think Crowley will like it, though. Here's another one. I agree. I just can't patronize someone like that. This is a response to you, Billy. Just can't roll with my money. Man, it's so hard. Some of these texts, when they from black to gray, because you respond, I can't tell what the hell's new. What Nikki has really indicated here is that she views her opinion of whether Trump should be incarcerated or not as more important than a jury's determination of did he violate the law or not. That is a very insightful text right there, texter. That part is true. Shouldn't we wait for the jury? That's what I was trying to get Joe to say. Like, what are you scared of, man? Do you think a jury could convict this guy of something he didn't do? I mean, it's not the jurors are infallible. Don't get me wrong, man. They've made mistakes. We know that. But you don't want to give a jury a chance to either hang or acquit this guy? I don't know. Here's another text. If we had issues with Polis supplanting his judgment in the truck driver case, we should have an issue with Nikki saying this. Yes, that's right. But here's the difference. Polis at least waited for the jury to convict. And I'm not even sure he waited, though, remember when the judge was going to sentence? You remember that right after this guy was convicted, the truck driver who burned to death 4 people and burned up 5 others. And now he's going to serve a sentence less than some habitual drunk drivers. Anyway, this guy, the governor, weighed in with his words before then. But he waited at least until I think the sentence had been rendered before there was a reconsideration. And then, so that makes him different than Nikki Haley. I don't get it. Another text. If the 9-year-old was Jimmy, I'd believe it. I think they mean I'd believe that it wasn't planted. Me too, man. Jimmy, in fact, was exactly the same height that he is now when he was 9, with the exact same voice. He had this. It's weird. Jimmy is kind of like ageless. Here's another, George. I can't stand Nikki Haley. I think she's a tool that's being propped up by the Democrats or quote, or whatever they're calling themselves now, end quote. Do you really believe that, texter? Do you believe that this is the product of, what's that?
I'm not certain I agree with that, because in any poll, Haley stomps Biden. I mean, it is not even close.
Yeah, Haley crushes Biden.
Yeah, way more than Trump does. Way more.
But if you're Haley and you're being propped up by the Democrats, why in God's name would you pledge to pardon Trump? I mean, that seems contrary to the Democrats' wishes that this guy get locked up into a deep, dark cave somewhere and we never hear from him again. That's what the Dems want. They see Trump as evil. They see him as, if they believed in Christ, as the Antichrist. That's how they see him. So it's just hard for me to imagine them rolling the dice on Nikki Haley, hoping against hope that she gets elected and then pardons the Antichrist. I don't think so. Another text. Right, but you can't proclaim innocence and get a pardon. Yes? No, you can. This is a texter. Texter said, don't you have to say you're guilty in order to receive a pardon? No, it's a good question. It's a fair question. And that is, Don't you have to get forgiveness? And that's what a pardon is. It's governmental forgiveness for a crime. I guess that's the closest thing I can liken it to. Don't you have to own responsibility for what you did to get it? And the answer is no, you don't. In fact, some pardons are the product of someone who has protested their innocence long enough that a piece of evidence showed up. Well, it could have been a recanting witness, a new witness. It could have been DNA testing. And those people get pardoned without ever saying that they've done it. And you can see people who may have been the product of some political prosecution being pardoned by someone down the road without them ever admitting that they did something wrong. The question is, in the vast majority of cases, should you expect a pardon when you've been convicted and you haven't taken responsibility for your conduct? And in the vast majority of those cases, I would say absolutely not. You should not be given forgiveness by diminishing, downplaying, dismissing, or whatever the level of accountability that was forced upon you by going to trial. I think the other one that's tricky is, can you maintain your innocence after having pleaded guilty? We see this a lot these days. People showing up and saying, well, I only pleaded guilty because they threatened me with more time or all that. I just think that's harder for the public to understand. I just think it's harder for the public to say, well, there's no chance I'd have pled guilty to that charge if I didn't do it. So that's a tough one. How do you plead guilty, which is an acknowledgement of conduct that rises to the level of some kind of a conviction, and then come back and say, I didn't do it? That's tough. That's very interesting. 303-696-1971 is our number. One more text. If he's convicted, we won't have a country. This is from a good friend. If Trump is convicted, we won't have a country. I don't believe that. Why is that? What'd you say, Bill?
I would love to explore that.
Well, I'm
idea.
interested in that.
Why would a conviction of Trump lead to the end of the? If again,
well, that's a good question. That's where I'm stumped. Is that if he's convicted, it will lead to the end of the country? Why is that? What does that mean? Does it mean that folks will rise up and tear the country apart and will engage in some sort of civil war that some folks are hoping for? You can hear it in their voices. You can read it in their text. They're hoping for civil war. They're looking for a reason to shoot someone else. You could just tell, which is appalling. We should never want for that outcome. Never want for that outcome. But I don't think that's what the texter's saying here, too. I think what she's saying is something else. And I'd love to hear why. And I texted back why. I'd love to get the answer to that. Why is, if he's convicted, I mean, is it a matter of the life of the country that he has to be pardoned if he's convicted? I don't know. 303-696-1971. Lots of texts coming in. I promise to get to those things as they pour in here. But give us a call and let's have the conversation. Hey, can we do this? Can we cut away for a break and then we'll come back and we'll wrap up the rest of this hour? Not going to do it, though, till I tell you one thing you can do now that you're in 2024. You've put all of the other tax stuff in the rearview mirror, at least in terms of what you can do in 2023. Any purchases you make now are going to count on a different ledger. Think about your home. Think about the kitchen. Think about your laundry room, your bathroom. One of the ways to make it even better, feel like new, feel like you're in a new house, is if you call up our friends, Brent and Joyce Tolliver, the mom and son team. Mom, of course, is Joyce. Son is Brent, at Roll 'em Out Shelves. Check them out. The wizardry that they can engage in turning a cabinet into something useful, efficient, productive even. There's no limit to the ideas that they have. Go to their website at rollemoutshelves.com, rollemoutshelves.com, and take a look and see some of the videos. They have full-time staff. They don't subcontract out, which is great. Better, the best. In fact, when I say the best, I mean it, but 5-star ratings, all 5-star ratings. It's impossible to get all 5-star ratings with the volume of work they've done, and yet they continue to do it. Find out why. Free in-home estimate today, 303-475-9601, 303-475-9601. Two of the nicest people you will ever meet. That's rollemoutshelves.com. When we come back, your calls, your text, 303-696-1971. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Jack is on the line with us. Jack, what do you think?
Yeah, George, I wanted to ask you some questions, and I don't know near as much as you do on this topic, but with these judges deciding that Trump is guilty of insurrection, therefore he's not qualified to be on the ballot, if I'm correct from what I've heard so far, he was never charged with it. He was never tried for it. He never got due process on the issue, and he was never convicted of it. So why wouldn't a writ of habeas corpus dispose of it all? That's my question.
It's a fair question, Jack. I think the habeas corpus thing applies a ton in the criminal context for sure. I don't think it applies here. But what I think we're going to see is the U.S. Supreme Court weigh in and say exactly what you said, which is, hang on, whether it's the kind of due process you get through a criminal justice process or something else, the due process, and I'm using air quotes here, lowercase d, lowercase p, the due process that was afforded him here was so insufficient. There's just no chance we're going to let this happen. I just can't. I mean, it would be incredibly frustrating if one of two things happens. One, they decide that each state can decide in and of itself who gets to appear on the ballot for president. That would be crazy. Two, that this standard of due process that was employed here in Colorado was sufficient. It just couldn't be sufficient. It was due process, but not nearly what you'd expect.
Yes. If you read the habeas corpus, what it involves, one of the primary things about it is to stop administrative override without a proper trial. And that's exactly what this is.
This is, I don't think there was, I'm not sure it has to be in front of a jury, especially if they're not looking to take away property or liberty. No, I'm just clarifying. I don't think it needs to be a jury, but I do think there needs to be the kind of discovery, and that's the process by which evidence is developed in investigation. There needs to be something more than this truncated hurry procedure that Colorado has in place for determining things like, is Jack 35 years old? Is Jack a naturalized citizen or a natural born citizen? You know what I mean?
Yeah, but what these judges have done is they found guilt without any of the procedure that's required to reach guilt. And that qualifies habeas corpus to control.
Except we're not going to use the term guilt because guilt is a criminal justice term only, right? They're not saying guilt, but they are finding that circumstance existed, that the insurrection occurred and that he engaged in it. And those two things, he didn't have to be guilty of it. They're just finding those things existed, and that's enough to preclude him from the ballot. Go ahead.
George, I don't know how you're missing it, man. I mean, they're saying he was involved in insurrection. So that's finding him guilty. I mean, come on.
Except you and I are just going to use two different terms here because your term actually has weight in the criminal justice system. It doesn't have anywhere else. It's a term of art. Hey, listen, when we come back, we're going to keep it up with your calls, your texts, maybe a new topic. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. It's the final hour of the first show of 2024. It's been lively, less on the phones than on the text. And I love the conversations that we have at 303-696-1971. That's the direction to go if you want to have this conversation. I didn't expect this topic to go quite the way or how long it's gone, but these are very interesting points. We're referring, of course, to Nikki Haley's pledge to a 9-year-old with, I'm going to presume, a planted question, because no 9-year-old knows who John Kerry is. Come on, folks. Asked Nikki Haley, likened her to John Kerry, and then asked if she would pardon DJT if she became president. And she did. And then Billy has this sound. Billy, do you still have that sound available?
I would pardon Trump if he is found guilty. A leader needs to think about what's in the best interest of the country. What's in the best interest of the country is not to have an 80-year-old man sitting in jail that continues to divide our country. What's in the best interest of the country would be to pardon him so that we can move on as a country and no longer talk about him.
Yeah, you agree with that? 303-696-1971. Listen, the if convicted part, in essence, by saying that too, what message are you sending to a future jury? Don't go through the hemming and hawing and the hand-wringing of paying attention to witnesses, both Trump's and the government's. Don't try to listen to the arguments and match the facts and evidence to the law and render a decision that you think complies with the instructions you've been given by the court. Don't do any of that, because no matter what conclusion you come to, if it's anything other than an acquittal, like maybe a hung jury, I don't know, I'm just going to wipe it away. I mean, why spend time caring? Why serve on a jury if you've got someone saying, if the dude's convicted, I'm just going to make it go the way of the dodo? I just disagree with the idea of using a campaign to pledge prosecution against a specific entity or individual, or pledging a pardon for the same. It just corrupts the process. Now, I had asked a friend who had texted in and said, listen, if he's convicted, we won't have a country. I asked why. Here's the response. It will divide us more than we already are. Technically, we will have a country, but it won't be a strong one. There is almost no trust in any institution that, quote, governs this land, and if he's convicted, it will be a pivotal moment in our history. There is no equal treatment under the law anymore. I don't have a crystal ball, but I am concerned. I think that's fair to express that kind of a concern. I just don't agree with the idea that this is somehow the end of the country. Listen, would it be divisive? Yes, I think it would be on the right. Divisive.
Hey, George, help me. Yeah. Help me walk me through that idea that if Trump, by a jury or by the criminal justice process, is found guilty, how that then means that the criminal justice system, et cetera, doesn't work. Because, and the idea that, we don't hold people responsible, wouldn't the pardon be the act of not holding him responsible? The idea of pardoning him, saying that even if he is found guilty by a jury in America, we are not going to hold him responsible for those crimes committed. What I'm hearing from the texter is 180 degrees away from their actual point. Their point is that if we hold Trump responsible, then all of a sudden it's a two-tier justice system, and so they're in favor of the pardon. The pardon is exempting him from the consequences. That's the result of what you're concerned about, with respect.
I think what folks are going to say, though, is, hey, look, this is a politically motivated prosecution to begin with, and it's so disparate and how it's being used against him versus his predecessors. One, I can distinguish between the prosecution out of D.C., New York, Fulton County, and the Mar-a-Lago one down in Miami. I've said it before. The one down in Mar-a-Lago, that looks to me to be pretty conservative approach, pretty measured, tactical decisions made by Jack Smith. I disagree with the one out of D.C. I disagree with the one by Alvin Bragg out of New York. That was a tortured, abusive use of the law up there to try to get around the statute of limitations to assuage a political pledge. I disagree with Fonnie Willis's prosecution, but the one out of Mar-a-Lago, folks, that is not political in this way. It does not appear we have ever had a president who, when confronted by the government when they were out of office with please return government documents, have lied to the government and said, no, I don't have them, or then said, well, they're mine. I converted them to my own private property, which is junk. There is no law that provides for a president to say, I've left office with these in my pants, therefore they're private property now. No such law exists. We've never had that. So the question is it worth prosecuting the guy for that? Or do we just kind of shrug and go, oh, that Donald? And if he's to be prosecuted, if he gets prosecuted and he's convicted, that's going to divide the country. And I think that's where Billy's going, is to say, whoa, why does this guy get to walk above the law? Why does he get to exist? Because you and I wouldn't get that same treatment. Careers have been ruined. Retirements have been prevented and upended from people who have done the same thing that Trump did with those documents that he hung on to. So the question is he better than anybody else? Should he be treated differently in that case? Just that case, folks. And I'm saying no, I don't think so. I don't think that's true. But the issue here, and the one that the texter, a very thoughtful, smart texter, is, will this destroy the country if he's prosecuted, if he's not pardoned? We've got callers on the line at 303-696-1971. Hey, Malcolm, you're on 710 KNUS. What do you think about all this, Malcolm?
Yeah, hi. A little digressing a little bit. I think there's something about Trump that hasn't been discussed, and that is his following, changes a little bit from state to state, but it's a very solid 30%. And if there's more than one candidate running against him in any of the upcoming primaries, he will win, just because he's got such a solid backing. Who, right? Trump right or wrong? And that's basically all I'm saying. What I want to say. That do you agree then with? Do you agree with Haley that he ought to be pardoned in advance of any prosecution or as part of a campaign pledge, or do you think no, the dude shouldn't be pardoned? Well, no, I mean, they'll say anything, I mean, obviously her handler said that's a good thing to say. I generally don't agree, but I'm saying that if the Republican candidates in the coming primaries, and there's 5 of them, if they don't decide if they continue to fight it out, like John Kasich got Trump in because he just divided up the votes. But if they don't decide amongst themselves who's going to get it, then Trump will definitely get it. I mean, he has a solid 30% going in. And all I'm saying is, that's what I'm saying, essentially.
Malcolm, I appreciate that, man. Thank you for the thoughtful call. Malcolm's line is open at 303-696-1971. Tony, you're on 710. What are your thoughts, man?
Hey, good morning. Well, the questions about Haley, I kind of think about the other night, she couldn't identify slavery as the cause for the Civil War. And now she's saying, she'll pardon Trump, but it's obvious what she's doing. As much as she may want to run as a Republican, she's running as a MAGA, and because she knows she's got to get that base. And so it's no surprise that she's saying what she's saying. Chris Christie, on the other hand, he's sticking to his guns, trying to run as a Republican and point out that, what Trump has meant to this country. She's trying to walk a different kind of line. So I'm not surprised. She's trying to appeal to Joe in Arvada. And she's made that conscious decision to do it. And we'll recall, Trump basically saying, I can shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue. And he was never going to shoot anybody, but it's a metaphor that he can do anything illegal, immoral, unethical, say anything he wants about anybody. It doesn't matter. He's not going to lose his following. And Joe is the example of that. I think if you ever positioned to these people, what if Obama in 2016 had called secretaries of state, worked on to defend Hillary, to put up an alternative slate of electors, had on January 7th had Antifa storm the Capitol, trying to overturn the election, put heat on his vice president not to sanction the election. All of that. This radio station would be screaming to this day that that was insurrection. I'm pretty confident of that. And I do
listen. The hypocrisy thing is real, and it's on either extreme. But I agree with you that if the shoe were on the other foot, and we were talking about different parties in power during some of these things, I think we would have different opinions, and that's disappointing, not unexpected, but disappointing. But let me ask you, in light of this, are you of the mind, and this is the position I've taken, whether it's to prosecute or to pardon a specific individual, nobody should be campaigning on a pledge of using their authority in that way, that is a corrupt motive that we should not honor with a vote.
I agree 100% with you. The greater concern, she's never going to get the nomination anyway. So, that becomes moot. I'm concerned about those same exact statements coming not from her, coming from Trump. And what his position is on the same thing. He has every intention of chasing down anybody who's ever gotten in his way.
Yeah, I worry about that. I do. And he hasn't come out and said the words. He's definitely hinted at it, but there are folks on his behalf is too strong. There are folks on his team that have said things, and Billy shot me one article or a quote from one guy who was like, "Oh, we're definitely going to go after members of the media." I'm like, wait, what? Like, that is anathema to the First Amendment. That is contrary to the whole idea of what we do here in America under the Constitution. But folks are saying it. But Tony, before I let you go and get to the other callers, let me ask you this. When you hear guys like Alvin Bragg campaign on nobody's prosecuted Trump more than I have, I need to be the AG, or Fani Willis, who has talked about it, or even though she's not in a position to exercise executive authority, but it's similar. When I think it was Rashida Tlaib said, elect me and let's go impeach the MF or all that other stuff. Are you equally opposed to those people saying it, even though they come from the other side of the political aisle? They come from the D side.
I absolutely do not approve of that. And I will also say, had it been Obama having done the same thing, and I have voted for him twice, I would never want to see him again in Washington, D.C. So I am different than you. I do believe it was insurrection. I do believe he should be prosecuted for insurrection. He may not have lifted a gun, but he did everything he possibly could to overturn the most sacred thing in our Constitution, and that is an election. So I am different from you. Now, the case that's going on in Florida, that judge is making sure that trial does not get started before the one you do believe in. She's doing everything she can to make sure that trial is not started before the election takes place, and hoping that it then is thrown out. And he will throw those cases out. I am concerned, George. I'm concerned about the future and him getting control. In 2020, our institutions held. In 2024, he's swearing that the institutions will not hold. And that concerns me. So, so I would feel the same way if it were Barack Obama having done that to defend Hillary Clinton in that loss, which they did not, obviously, and they sat on the dais with him and listened to him give his speech as the new president of the country. Trump didn't do that. So,
Tony, thanks for the call. As always, good, thoughtful stuff. I imagine there's a bunch of people that want to react to that. We've got full phone lines other than Tony's. You can fill it up at 303-696-1971. And I promise to get to those calls. Also, all the texts coming in as well. Some real thoughtful ones here, too, which I appreciate more than just the knee-jerk reactions that we get in some quantity here. I appreciate the thoughtful ones. I just don't think that there's a slam dunk right or wrong about every one of these, but I am horrified at the idea that somebody would campaign on the idea that they would use their authority on a specific individual or entity in a certain way when it comes to stuff like crime or the allegation of crime. Here's the deal. 2024, this is the year you get back your youth, your energy, your confidence. You can do that, especially if you're a dude facing the hair loss thing, by calling our friends at Advanced Hair Restoration. That's Tanya Pauls. She is not just a doctor. She's a magician with this stuff. It's why they're able to guarantee their work. Modern technology, top-rated physicians. What else do you need to know? Oh, I know. Maybe it's what's in it for me if I try to do this. Not just the health, not just the confidence, not just the exuberance. How about the idea that it's a simple one-day treatment? And if you call today at 720-459-HAIR, HAIR, 720-459-HAIR, they'll give you $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. That's your hair, by the way. They're growing your hair. Nothing else. It's you. Give them a call today, 720-459-HAIR, or you can check them out at advancedhair.com. That's advanced, ends in a D, advancedhair.com. Hey, when we come back, we're going to get to the other calls, of course, on the line and your texts. It's George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here at 710 KNUS. Phone lines have been hopping 303-696-1971. So have the texts. Here's our friend Eric, I think Billy's responding to some of these. Should Secretary of State Jenna Griswold be impeached for what she did to President Trump? Shenna Billows, SOS in Maine, is being impeached, or there's talk about it. Do you agree? No. Jenna Griswold didn't do anything. She took kind of a weird way out because she didn't want to make the decision and threw it to the courts. But what would you impeach her for? I don't understand what she did.
The other
problem
problem
is the courts that made this decision.
George,
Go ahead.
You'd need to have control of the House and the Senate. Wouldn't matter. It would not matter. If Republicans came forward today and said impeach Secretary of State Griswold, it'd go nowhere because of the composition of the House and the Senate. If he's talking about removing her from office, there certainly could be a recall effort or something, but then
for what?
Yeah.
For
again,
what though?
In the blue state, even regardless of what it is, you can invent whatever you want. Blue state. That's going to take a huge.
Practically, I don't think it works. But he asked me if I agree. What's the thing she did that was like? I get it. You disagree with it politically. You might even think, I don't think this comports with the law. Is that why you remove someone from office? It doesn't feel like it rises to that level. That's how we got to the 2 impeachments of Trump. We lowered the bar so low that it's, I don't like you. I disagree with what you did here. And now I'm going to turn it into something because I have political power. That's just the wrong answer for America. We've got callers on the line here. I think it's Ralph. Ralph, you're on 710 KNUS. Ralph, what do you think?
Hello, George. First,
hey, sir.
2 points. First, thank you for saving me $100. I was going to contribute to Nikki Haley, but not now.
Because of the pardon thing? Because of the pardon thing?
Well, let me ask you another question on Nikki. If Nikki gets low on funds, is she going to say that she will pardon drug lords? I mean, once you say, I'm going to pardon someone before they're convicted, what you're saying is, I'm selling pardons.
I don't know if she's doing it to sell the pardons. I do think she's doing it to appease the base. And Ralph, do you believe, independent of the timing of this, that there could be a discussion had about whether or not pardoning Trump, should he be convicted and incarcerated, would have some sort of a let's get past this moment, like when Ford pardoned Nixon? Like there could be that. I'm not disputing that there isn't that conversation to be had after the fact, but to do it during the campaign concerns the hell out of me.
Well, yeah, but I think there's something even more basic than the Nixon question. And that is, you put your finger on it, Mar-a-Lago. During our Southeast Asia excursion in Vietnam, I had some of the top clearances that existed at that time. And fundamentally, when I saw the pictures, and granted, they had been slightly, how shall I say, touched up to prevent any classified information actually being seen, but I saw the covers on those, and I darn near had a heart attack. I mean, what you're talking about is, well, let me ask you 2 questions. If you are a CIA agent or a source for the CIA, are you going to still spill the beans to the U.S. agents? And if you're a U.S. agent overseas, especially a no official cover agent, are you going to keep risking your life when somebody back home, how shall I say, has the highest classified documents in his bathroom in a public place? I don't think so. And then we ask you a question, George. You're in the military.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Think about it. You have war plans. We are now going to what? Invade some country. You're a soldier.
Canada.
You're an officer. We're going to invade Canada. Wonderful, like it. We're going to invade Canada. However, the president, because how shall I say, he has no sense of classification, may or may not have left the plans for invading Canada in the washroom somewhere in Washington where he was at.
Yep.
Are you going to risk your troops' lives on the possibility that that new President Trump is going to be exactly as, I can't use the word on TV, of high security classifications as Mar-a-Lago shows? I think not.
I don't know,
be a soldier under that.
Because what you're talking about something different. If it's recruiting and retention, that's one thing. But if you're talking about whether or not generals or commanders will obey the lawful orders of their superiors, including the commander in chief, because of this kind of a thing, I don't want to ever encourage insubordination. If the order is lawful,
George,
it needs to be followed.
Believe me, I am not encouraging that. I am precisely 100% for that. But what I'm asking is, well, Frederick the Great of Russia said it. No man who thinks is a soldier. Well, if any thinking soldier knows that the president has spilled or might have spilled the beans when you're about to invade a country and you are deciding whether to re-up or not, I don't think you re-up. That's the question I have, is the effect on national security. Both the CIA and our spy networks, our human intelligence networks, as well as our own military. Do you trust this man with your life? Are you going to volunteer to trust this man with your life? I don't think so.
Maybe not, but I'm telling you, my decision to remain in the military, and Ralph, thank you for your call, by the way, 303-696-1971. My decision to stay in the military and to encourage others to join it during periods of time when Bill Clinton was president. Remember, I got commissioned under Bush 1. Okay, I stayed in under Clinton. I stayed in under Obama, even though I got deployed to Iraq under Obama. But none of that impacted my commitment to the country or the Constitution. And even if this guy were to have been guilty of the Mar-a-Lago stuff like that, it doesn't preclude him from serving as president. What we can't do is to start to chip away at the credibility of the institution developed by the Constitution, which is this idea of civilian control of the military vested in this one unified executive. And even if that guy got convicted, and I know it would be crazy, it would seem like it would be a constitutional crisis. If the guy gives an order, I don't ever want someone to say, he was convicted of that thing. I'm not sure I want to risk my troops' lives. Nope. Lawful order, you will follow it. And that's the thing I think that people are losing sight of here. When they hear me talk about the institution or the FBI or the DOJ, what they hear is anti-Trump. What they don't hear is pro-Constitution, pro these institutions that should be independent of the Dems or the Republicans, because my position is the same. My position is identical, whether it's about an R or a D on these particular decisions. And so when someone says, well, when you agree that it would call into question his ability to lead and all these other things, I don't know if it does or doesn't, but I don't want a single soldier or officer ever disobeying a lawful order coming from the president, whether they disagree with it or not. Ever. That's the end of civilian control of the military. And we can't have that either. Hey, I got to tell you about super attorney, a guy named Dan Kaplis. Dan Kaplis and Babar Wahid are people that have used the civil court system to the advantage of those who are, and I don't want this to sound like a measure of weakness, but those who aren't in a position to protect their own interests and to seek justice on their own. Could you go through court without an attorney? Yes, you could. But why would you do that when you have the option of calling the top civil litigator in the state of Colorado? Why would you do that? And he doesn't say, hey, you got to pay me X number of dollars before. He doesn't work like that. He says, first, tell me the story of what happened to you. Let me know what happened. And when it's a righteous case, Dan says, here's the deal. Not going to cost you a penny. Here's what I'm going to do. I will take a percentage of whatever it is I can recover for you. That fixed amount doesn't change. I will do that for you. And that creates the greatest incentive for him to get the greatest recovery of justice on your behalf. You just don't have to go out of pocket. Imagine that. You get the number one civil litigator in the state of Colorado, and it costs you nothing out of your pocket. 303-770-5551. If you've been hurt by someone's negligence, recklessness, or intentional conduct, there's the first bestest place to go, and that's dankapleslaw.com. Kaplis is C-A-P-L-I-S, dankapleslaw.com, 303-770-5551. Let's get right back to the phones. I think I'm sorry? Oh, we had Mike on the phone. We just We just dropped Mike. Mike's question was going to be about Mar-a-Lago case. Is it above board, or is Jack Smith just a hack? Well, I don't know that those things are mutually exclusive. I suppose he could be a hack, but I tried to disassociate myself from his individual motivations and political leanings from what I see in the indictment. And I'm telling you, looking at the indictment and the law, the Mar-a-Lago case looks legitimate. And it looks to me like the most and perhaps only legitimate prosecution. The only answer, it seems to me, that folks have for this is, and this is the problem, when you have Alvin Bragg rush to be the first, he already tainted the entire process at the state and federal level, the perception of it, because it was so politicized. Fonnie Willis, I feel like the same thing. The January 6th prosecutions, come on, man. It's gratuitous. I just think it's gratuitous. I think it's overreaching. But that one in Mar-a-Lago, I mean, tell me what the alternative is. Tell me what the right answer is to what happened there. And don't run the jive by me about this is all about declassified documents. That's been debunked. That debate we had before the indictment, it has nothing to do with whether or not the president can classify or declassify documents. That's why Jack Smith was super smart in the way he pursued it. It has nothing to do with any document other than the ones they knew he had that they asked him to return repeatedly before they ever got the FBI and the courts involved. Just what are you supposed to do? Guy keeps lying to the government, keeps manipulating his own attorneys, keeps trying to hang on to this information that he'll show to reporters, but promises it won't go anywhere else because it's in a super secure paper box in a bathroom of his golf resort. What do we do? Just shrug and go, oh, we caught you. Don't do that again, you crazy. What are you supposed to do with that? I think that may be the only truly and fully legitimate prosecution against Trump. And so we've had the conversation before. Does it matter? Should it be pursued? Please don't tell me, well, every president has done this. No, they haven't. Every president has probably figured out a way to leave the White House with classified documents they weren't entitled to, but they returned them when they were confronted with it. This guy didn't. Now what? But let me read to you. This is just very thoughtful here. Our texter that I was going back and forth with, this friend, says, these are trumped up charges like all the other ones. They'll do everything in their power to, quote, find him guilty, but most know it's a witch hunt and has been for years. The weaponization of our institutions is real. I don't know that it's real, but I know that the perception that they've been weaponized is what scares the hell out of me. How do you ever change that? So I asked the question, how do we get out from under this? And the question, and the answer was, and I asked, what about jurors? Can you trust the jurors? I don't know if I can trust the jurors, they said. Public trust matters, but it's waning day by day. People have lost confidence. And there was this poll I asked them for. And I said, well, what's the answer? How do we get past this? Elect conservatives for starters and get rid of the old timers who milk the system for power and money with no regard for the will of the people. Okay, but what does that mean? What does it mean to do that? And elect conservatives, do you expect then conservatives will then not politicize the criminal justice system? And what will they do differently? Because what I've heard is revenge tour. What I've heard is we need to balance things out. And that's an excuse for we need to do to them what they did to us. And then we can all go back to normal. We've had that conversation. That's a failure. That's not going to happen. They're not going to be adjusted or rebalanced. And then when they get back into power, not seek to do it to us. This tit for tat thing is going to destroy America. What we need is someone to pledge unequivocally at the beginning of whatever office they're seeking is, I will not use whatever executive authority I have to pursue a partisan purpose. I will not prosecute someone because they are an R or a D, nor will I fail to prosecute someone because they are an R or a D. My litmus test for the use of my executive authority is this and only this. Did they commit a crime? Can I prove they committed a crime? Period. We can discuss what justice looks like after that, but short of that, they should be saying nothing about what they're going to do with their authority. They should be promising no outcome, no revenge tour. But nor should they be saying, hey, if you elect me, I'm going to go ahead and pardon Rod Blagojevich, or I'm going to pardon whoever else gets prosecuted. Come on. Let the system at least run through the checks and balances that exist, and a pardon is the fail-safe. It's the drain. It's the final stop along the line. But to use it as a tool to get elections, to get elected, to get votes, I don't think so. Here's another one. Trump's unequal treatment under the law is proof of our perverse judiciary. What are you talking about? What has the judiciary done to Trump? They can't generate their own cases. They can only rule upon things that have been brought before them. What did they do? I mean, most of the states out there have kept him on the ballot. Are they perverse? 3 of the 4. Remember when Joe said all the Democratic appointed justices are corrupt? Well, what about the 3 that voted to keep him on the ballot? Well, they're good. Like, do you see how this is all outcome driven? Same text. Yes, he needs to be pardoned. Well, that's not the question. The question isn't whether he, at the end of this, deserves to be pardoned. The question is, do you support the idea of candidates before a case has worked its way through, even if it has worked its way through the system, pledging to use their authority for a specific individual in a certain way? Trump has not enjoyed due process since 2016. Remember Russia collusion, delusion from the communist left, same song, different verse. The despotic charges brought against Trump are proof of unequal treatment of the law. Well, wait a minute. When it comes to the Mar-a-Lago thing, what are despotic charges? And how is it unequal treatment? I mean, remember all the crap they found in Biden's garage next to the Corvette, which was a total joke, by the way, that he's got all of these top secret confidential documents. Absolutely a joke. But when they went and got them, and by the way, they should have never let him search his own place. I disagree with that. But when he gave them back. If Biden had said, no, I want to keep these, or I don't have them, and they knew he did, that would be like Trump. But nobody's done what Trump has done. I think people can easily compare the two in office and find Trump's this is a response to Billy again, man. This is throwing me off a bit here. At risk of playing whataboutism, why was President Biden not indicted for all classified documents he was not supposed to have? Lisa, it's a fair question. What we have established, and I disagree with this, is we've established a precedent whereby Republicans or Democrats alike, presidents who end up with classified documents in their possession that outlast their date in office, their time in office, we have treated them as you get a freebie. And that freebie is when we discover them or you discover them, if you turn them over, we don't do anything about it. Trump's is different. Biden, we found all the documents, the 55 boxes or whatever it is. My guess is all those documents are back in the hands of the government. Never denied having them, never refused to turn them over. That's the difference. Trump lied to his own attorneys. He misled his own attorneys. He had somebody move boxes from one place to another, never told his attorneys. So his attorneys would go out there and say, yep, we've given you everything we know of, which is true, but it's a lie. That's what makes him different. Is it the crime of the century? No. But what do you do? Trump can come out of federal prison ripped like Blago. It would really put some of the Trump idolatry folks over the top. Yeah, I don't know if that's true or not. Hey, listen, let's cut away for a break here before we come back for that last segment. We all want a kinder, gentler way to experience wellness and overcome pain in 2024. I've been telling you about these folks. I'm going to actually do it myself. I've experienced, I can't explain it, a little bit of heel pain on this trip. And it's just pervasive, and it feels like there's some swelling involved. Guess who's going to the Ultra Botanica, the Ultra Cur, when he gets home? Because I left it at home. That's this guy right here that you're listening to. There is a 3-day free supply with your name on it, figuratively, at your natural grocers. Go to the Vitamin Manager, because if you don't go it, you can't find it. Go to the natural grocers Vitamin Manager. Say, I'd like my 3-day free supply. Take this stuff. It's an antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, patented, curcumin-based, all-natural supplement. This is the difference maker. I regret now not bringing it with me on this short little trip, but I'm going to be popping these pills when I get back. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I want the kind of health outcomes that you get with this. 48 hours. That's it. 50% of all the people that take this thing experience relief within 48 hours. Of that group, half of them within 2. Be part of that group. Check them out at getultranow.com, getultranow.com, but then go get your free 3-day supply at your natural grocers. Hey, stick around. We'll come back. We'll get the calls, the text. We'll wrap up the show. It's George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
Say goodbye to clutter and hello to convenience when you experience organization transformation in your home. Roll 'em Out Shelves, your clutter transformation experts, create affordable Colorado-crafted organized storage solutions. These custom options will maximize and organize your kitchen and bath storage as Roll 'em Out Shelves carefully designs and builds roll-out drawers to fit your space perfectly to clear the clutter. Contact owners Joyce and Brent at Roll 'em Out Shelves to schedule your free in-home estimate today.
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS, final read of today's show, the first of 2024. Yep, it's about making your home awesomer. Guy's name is Mitch Flory. You've heard me talk about Mitch for a long time now, and I do it with a great deal of pride because nobody out there can make your countertops as awesome as Mitch Flory. That's not me saying it. That's all of the customer reviews. Some of those texts that I read to you are from people who I know used Mitch for their countertops. Excited to hear him read for on this show. This is a guy that has the business called The Art of Granite. It's a little misleading because he does granite and marble and courts and anything else you can dream up into your kitchen, bathroom, laundry room, finished basement countertop. Guys interested in proving to you that he can be the best out there. So to get your business, a couple things. One, he gives you his cell phone number, 303-386-5919. Write it down, 303-386-5919. He also says, come to my showroom. I mean, you can go to the website, theartofgranite.com, but come out here and check it out. Let me meet you. Let me show you the great things that I can do. But be aware, if you go do that, you're going to close the deal with Mitch. He'll also say, by the way, you get wholesale prices, even if you just walk in off the street. But if you're a 710 listener and you tell him that, I listen to George, he'll tell you, me too, love that guy. That's why we advertise there. You don't just get the wholesale prices. You get the bathroom countertop for free with the kitchen countertop package. Or if you're doing one room, he'll throw in the sink for free. That's Mitch Floria, theartofgranite.com. Let's go to Frank. You're on 710 KNUS. Frank, what do you think?
You know, George, I just want to say Happy New Year, and I so appreciate you and Billy's show. I think you guys handle a great deal of information as fairly as you can. And I also think that you, especially with your intimate knowledge of the legal system, look at all sides of this question. I know that you believe in the legal system passionately. And that's why I want to ask you what I perceive to be the bigger question here is, do you fully, at this time, trust our legal system, and it's a big question, in all areas of the country, or do you believe that it is capable of being tainted or influenced in certain areas and under certain administrations with certain members of the DOJ at the federal level, swaying things or putting their hand on the scale?
Yeah, it's the latter, Frank, of course. Of course, I think that any part of our system can be bent, twisted, or tortured by someone with nefarious, whether they're political or otherwise, intentions. Yes, of course, I think that's possible. And do I think it's happened? Yep, I think it's happened too. But I think that's become our fallback, hasn't it? Every decision with which we disagree, we go, oh, well, it's corrupt. There's a political motive. And it's like, hang on. Maybe on some, but maybe not on others. I'm just afraid that that's become our response to everything so much that we're like, now we can never trust the system.
Well, I can only hope that you remain the super canary in the coal mine for this system. No, really. I mean, nobody knows it any better than you. Nobody sees the small stuff. I mean, I hear some of these legal commentaries on different radio programs, and they're all good, but they've all got their political bias. I think you try to be fair and down the middle, and that's the only hope that this country has, is to keep that system intact and to honestly investigate anybody that seems to be trying to pervert it and sway it for their own political aspersions.
Yeah, I hope I'm wrong on all this, and I hope we can right this ship. But part of me thinks that a lot of this goes away. Maybe not all of it. A lot of it goes away when Trump goes away. And I mean, at some point, he can't be here forever, right? I mean, at some point, he'll have served his second term and he'll have moved on to retirement or something. My hope is that just down the road he's such a polarizing figure that if he's out of office and moved on, can we regroup and figure out how to get rid of all the politicization of these institutions? God, I hope so, Frank.
Well, I hope that he's not the only person that can help right the ship. It's going to take a country. But, you know, I sure see a lot of crazy bad things happening that seem to be influenced by a lot of big powers out of our central government.
Frank, you talked us to the end of the show, my friend. Happy New Year. We'll talk with you again. Hey, that's it for me. I'll be back tomorrow. Billy won't be. Stick around. It's George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.